Hello and welcome to a brand new Unsourced. Well, I'm here joined again by my two fantastic compatriots here, Mikhail and Doug. We're here to talk about the second best Fantastic Four movie. Yes, because it still has not displaced the original 1994, directed by Ole Sassoon, produced by Roger Corman, Fantastic Four movie. If you haven't watched that, please do so. You can find copies anywhere. But why don't you introduce yourselves? Let's go with you, Mikkel, and tell us how things are going. First thoughts, initial thoughts, all that fun stuff.
Hey, yeah, I like this movie. I think it's a good Fantastic Four movie. I think it's a good movie in general, actually. Um, I remember seeing the Fantastic Four films by Tim Story, and they were very mid. And this one I found that I liked it more so than either Fantastic Four or Rise of the Silver Surfer, even though this movie is kind of a weird amalgam of both of those in some
How,
ways.
how dare you forget the most fantastic one, though?
Wait, you mean the 19 like the classic? I haven't seen that one,
You're you're
so
you're missing another one. How dare
The,
you?
the Josh Trank one?
oh,
Oh,
that
oh,
okay. I have not seen that.
I
shame on
haven't
you.
I haven't seen that.
What?
I know. I almost, but I know enough
It's
to
so
say
sh- it's so
I,
short.
because it got edited to hell or chopped to
it,
hell. Yeah.
it was more interesting to me because of the behind the
Okay,
scenes
okay.
story and the like what was the Trank cut, stuff
Okay.
like that.
Small history lesson then, okay? Oh yeah, right. Because I feel like I'm the only one who's seen this, so clearly I am the definitive Fantastic Four head here. I'm king of the throne here. So um, I would say without reservation, the first half of Fantastic Four is pretty good, and then the rest is nothing. They didn't finish. They didn't finish filming that movie, so Simon Caper had to come in. Okay, where are they? Okay, but they punched Doom once in the end, and that's how the movie ends. Everything that's what movie is like. No, seriously, like the big set piece because apparently, according to the scuttlebutt, Josh Crank could not find a way to make the third act work. He kept refilming, delaying filming. There was this whole subplot with Fantastic Car and all that. Nothing was working. Apparently, went over budget. So what happened was the big set piece is Doctor Doom escapes from the government facility, creates a big wall of plasma or energy, and so Reed, um, stretches his arms out. He catapults the thing. I think that Invisible Woman and Human Torch like run cover, and then the thing punches Doctor Doom, and he dies. And that's how the movie ends.
Hell
It's a,
yeah.
like he punches him into the big wall, the big tower of energy. Okay, so he's dead, and that's how the movie ends. So the big set piece of that movie is just one punch. Um, amazing. Uh, but anyway,
you mean fantastic?
fantastic. Say that again.
uh yeah, that sounds unintentionally hilarious.
It's so
And
short. It's like 80 minutes, man. You guys gotta watch it.
I'll watch it. Yeah, I'm just curious, like what it even ended up being, because the initial pitch of that sounded interesting. Of like,
First half is
let,
pretty
let's
okay.
let's do body horror. They got their powers from the negatives. Even though, like, I was getting kind of tired of like, okay, we don't have to keep going to the ultimate universe or the ultimate comics for the origins of things. But I was like, yeah, negative zone's like fine as a concept. Like
Yeah,
that.
making them all young isn't that weird. I don't think so either.
I feel
Um,
sorry for Trank, really. I don't think it's a wise idea to always throw an indie filmmaker into the blockbuster system that fast, because I feel that really this is one of those cases when that backfired, right? Because I am willing to bet he was pretty overwhelmed with the demands of that form of filmmaking, right? Because I mean, he did a really good job with Chronicle, and I think his output after that was also uh, pretty nice. But I'm not surprised that it became kind of a mess. That then they had to bring in Simon Kinberg to try to fix it, maybe within the uh, financial restrictions that they had. You know,
It just
kind of
ends, man. It's so good. It just ends. I haven't seen a movie end this quickly since then until Borderlands, which also just ends.
Borderlands was okay. Come on, but
Overall,
no,
Borderlands more consistent, but that movie just ends. Admit it, it just ends.
no. Wait. No, they do have some closing scenes between the characters and stuff. I
Okay,
remember, like, I think
that'll be one thing, but like the third act is pretty rushed. I'll say. We can all admit it. Anyway, Borderlands. Okay, where were we?
Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four. So I was giving
Yes.
my impressions.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I think my expectations weren't that high, but I really appreciated the movie more as it went on. Like, I think the first half of it was kind of I was just kind of like, yeah, okay. And then it got proceedingly more interesting. I think, especially as they go out into space, and there's that whole chase with the Silver Surfer later, and then I actually think they did some they had a very interesting turn with the whole baby story. And I figured, okay, the kid has to figure into the plot in a big way at some point, and he did. And one thing that really surprised me was ultimately that this film, um, it starts and ends as a very intimate movie. They keep the scale or the scope of it kind of small. I mean, all of the cosmic stuff notwithstanding, this is a very low stakes movie in some ways. And I appreciated that it had very little action. Like, I think that was a positive, because you think of a movie like this, you're expecting some pretty extensive pyrotechnics, and this movie actually it kept the focus on the characters for the most part. And even in the climax, right, there really isn't that much action, although what action there is, I thought was pretty nice. um my favorite sequence was actually the one where the Human Torch reveals Silver Surfer's backstory. Like, that sequence was beautiful. That sequence was kind of touching. I think it stood out. I don't know, just the way that they executed it overall with the music and the visuals and everything. Um, and I think it was I think it was emotionally very well calibrated. Okay. So overall, I liked it a lot more than I thought it would, and yeah, to me, it is the best Fantastic Four movie of the ones that I have seen.
How about you, Doug? First
Uh,
thoughts, initial thoughts.
yeah, I would actually piggybacking off of that. Of the ones I've seen, yeah, like I still haven't seen the Josh Trank one or the Roger Corb. I do want to see both of those, but of the ones I've seen, I would say this is the best one. I went in with kind of low expectations. I didn't think like it was marketed or uh that well, and the trailers weren't blowing me away. Like, I kind of went in of this big superhero movies this summer. I was like, oh well, Superman's gonna be the more interesting one because it's a gun movie, so that's gonna be something there. And it actually ended up being like, yeah, I like this movie better. And I agree that like it benefits from the small intimate scale of the characters. There are times I wish that we did zoom out in terms of like, as the story, we'll get into like as the plot escalates and we're in there talking about like the world's reaction. I kind of wish we saw more of that, because you kind of just like see someone watching TV, or Ben will like pass some people in an alleyway and then come back inside and be like, it's bad out there, guys. I'm like, wait, is it bad? Like, I want to see the show. Like, I mean, I know it's a Marvel movie and it's gotta be family friendly to the extent you could show like some like mild like rioting or something, like some kind of like world, because like as far as the populace is concerned, like this is like end times and stuff. So like it's like I kind of wanted, I didn't need the movie to be about that. Like, I'm glad overall that it is about a family trying to like figure out the best way forward. But like, I did want kind of like more consensus, especially I was like, well, we're not going to probably have much more time in this universe anyway. Like, because I mean, it's not a spoiler because we saw them in the end credits of Thunderbolts is like, okay, so they're hopping to a new reality soon at some point. So it's like, I kind of want to see like, yeah, what's happening in this world, and it's a good looking uh movie from that point, and I was like, yeah, I would have liked to have seen like more things like outside of the tower happening in reaction to like what is going on with them. But I like, because like my thing with the Fantastic Four, from the little bit I've read of the comics and or seen them pop up in like other character stories, is like, oh well, they're kind of, to me, I feel like the thing they're closest to is like kind of Star Trek, like that they're like, one, explorers, but then also like problem solving in terms of like figuring out like, okay, we found this one civilization that wants to remain hidden. Now how do we proceed forward? Or like, we have to deal with a space thing, and like, what's the like their immediate response to things isn't just like, we're gonna punch it and throw our powers at it. And that was always more compelling to me. I mean, like with the Star Trek movies, like those have to have like a little more action, but you can still like maintain like some kind of like ethical dilemma within the stakes of those things to keep it feeling Trekky. So I think this movie had those vibes. I mean, I think there are some things, like I think a couple characters get shortchanged, and then overall, if you were to read too much into like the theming or of what the movie's like dealing with, it's like, oh, okay, so it's fine if like only a handful of people decide the fate of billions. But even if the movie does like present it as like, oh well, Sue's compassionate, she's like gonna go out to the people and make a plea with their child, but still, it is the elites deciding the fates of the rest of.
They're like gods, they're like the most important people on the planet. Everybody listens to them.
We love you, Fantastic Four. And they have no backup for when, if they can't defeat Galactus, they're fucked. They're like, oh fuck, we're gonna die. Like when they come back and they didn't defeat Galactus, they're like, they have no like the governments of Earth don't have like anything cooked up. There's no like shield on this reality that's like figured out anti-space monster weapons or something. They're like, oh shit, we're just gonna die. So yeah, I mean, I almost, that's kind of why I wish the movie zoomed out a couple times to see like the fallout in the rest of the world, because it is just these like four people deciding the fate of everything. So I feel like they could have balanced that, like kept the stakes and focus more intimate, but then occasionally like showing us like what is happening there. But the movie's not that long, so I guess they just don't, like we'll talk about, it seems like there was a lot left on the cutting room floor or worked back in weird spots. Like that's probably it has like some editing and pacing weirdness. I feel like a lot of these movies do now, especially like MCU stuff. I think a lot of it's just from the production cycle of like how that, because I can remember when they announced they had started filming this, and it was like it's gonna be out like next July. Like it seemed like it like was not enough time to like do a full movie and then post production, and it seems like, yeah, it kind of barely is enough time to like put these things out. And I feel like if you just it's like the movie's good, but it's like if you like put bake it in the oven a little longer, like I feel like that will result in a better movie. But it might probably just have a longer tail in terms of like, I mean, we could talk about the box office, but I just feel like culturally people are kind of just getting over or seem MCU fatigued. And it's like, yeah, you could have spent more time making sure that this one was special, even though this does feel different than the other ones in a good way, because like you said, like the lack of fighting is an appeal to me. I don't know if that's like, were people bored with that? there was a dad in front of me in my audience who was snoring during the climax, but I think that he was I think he was just a tired dad, because my dad used to take me to movies all the time, and he fell asleep during the very action heavy Hulk movie, which is the not good one, the Incredible Hulk. Like I like Ang Lee's Hulk much better, which is like the slower,
it was
more
so good.
introspective
Incredible
one.
Hulk stinks. I agree.
They're like, let's put more punching in it. That's what the I mean, which I guess is what people culturally want in a.
All three
Hulk
of us don't
movie.
like that movie.
I'm kind of on the fence. I think there was a better cut of that film. You add 20 minutes to that movie, it would have been good.
I mean,
Okay,
it's like what
for the
Doug
record.
says. You gotta let it cook more. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think that's an ongoing problem. I mean, that's a general blockbuster production problem. You know, they often have release dates before they have finished scripts, and with Marvel especially, it's like, you know, they got to just like send all of this into the pipeline, and the script is just, you know, it's still being written, finalized, and then, you know, like as stuff is being shot, and then as stuff is being shot, it gets sent to the VFX people early on, and then it's like they want to make changes, and then they have to hire more VFX people to make the deadline, which is already impossible, right? So that's why they farm it out to so many different VFX companies, and then they have to pay everybody for overtime. And a lot of the times the companies have to eat the overages, and then they might be put out of business, right? Like it's a very vicious system where movies are often half baked when they enter production, right? And they have not enough time really to be truly worked out or even finalized. But really, I find that's been a problem since at least maybe 2007 or something, because like I've been reading back on that stuff, and it's like I think like War of the Worlds, that Steven Spielberg movie, that really set a new record for how quickly studios wanted effects companies to work, and then since then it's just been, like, let's ramp it up, let's like do this, let's do that. Oh wait, we have an Avengers movie coming out like in a year and a half, so we need the Fantastic Four movie maybe before that or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's a shame is what it is, right? But if they slowed down, right, like I think they kind of feel like, okay, we have to keep the momentum going, we have so many moving parts, like we can't afford to slow down because it's tied to all these other things, on all this ancillary merchandise and all these other productions we have, because you slow down one thing, right, you have to probably rearrange like your schedule with all the other stuff.
Which is what happened during COVID, when they had to kind of like change the release schedule. Like before we started, we were talking about Multiverse of Madness. Like that was supposed to come out that was going to be before No Way Home, right? And like
yes,
yeah, because America Chavez was going to be in that, and like she was going to be the one like opening the multiverse portals and stuff, and so they were just like, I don't know, just give Ned a sling, give him a ring.
And he'll do it. He'll like find all these other spider guys and everything.
His first try, it's not like he opened the portal and there was like a monster there. Like almost ate them. It's like no, he found what they were looking for immediately. He's like really good at it.
Yeah, it is. COVID was just one of those great disruptors, I think, in general, right? And everybody had to adjust to that, and then like you end up with a lot of messy productions and derailed plans and everything. I mean, I really feel sorry for Sony here. But going back to Fantastic Four, yeah, it's interesting how. Look, I would say I definitely felt a little bit of the of this movie maybe needing a bit more time to cook, but as a whole, I thought it was pretty well executed. It felt it wasn't. It wasn't distracting in the way that other superhero movies have been distracting in terms of post production. Right, like
it's nothing on the level of The Flash, where you're like, this is a movie that was in. I mean, that's its own thing of like it was in production. Like that movie, it started production. I don't even remember what year, but that had been cooking like too long. Like they had been to like restart and reshoot a bunch of stuff over time. Like that's like its own interesting case study. And then what happens when your star goes on a crime spree leading up to the movie?
No, I mean, I think the Flash, it was more so that was like a development problem more, and then it was like, okay, they had to delay it for a year or two, along with Aquaman, too, as well. And so that was kind of yeah, but because of all the changing studio politics, that film also kind of went through different permutations, as I understand it. Um, and from everything I've gathered, this film was pretty smooth, but it was the usual Marvel machine. It's like, well, yeah, let's kind of change stuff around as we're making it because we can make it better. It's kind of like how they iterate animated films, so you might make some pretty big changes during production, right? When you're making an animated film and certain concepts are dropped. Not that this happened here, but I think that's I think Marvel had just in general has this really weird production process.
Yeah, and it mostly, like I was saying before, the movie looks good overall, benefits from the like retro futurism aesthetic, which I like, but there's definitely things that feel like, oh, this was like a last minute like reshoot, and then yeah, they had to animate it to fit into the movie. Like there's stuff, especially like with Reed and like the final confrontation, where I was like, this does not look like he's even like it seemed like they just threw him in front of a green screen really quickly and then barely finished animating this. Like it not in a way, it wasn't like a ton of shots that looked like that. There was just like moments where I was like, well, it was jarring because the movie overall looked pretty solid, that there'd be moments where I was like, oh, why does that look like that? But not in a way that like ruins the movie. If anything, the retro futurism aesthetic almost lends. I was like maybe you should just leaned into it, and you could just have like kind of shot effect, like almost intentionally. Like if that had been like an aesthetic choice, I maybe would have been okay with it if they had like sprinkled bits of that, or like just like some kind of like older filmmaking thing to like make it more 60s-y. I mean, overall, like I do like that aesthetic, but I wish sometimes these things would lean more into. And this director, like he did WandaVision, I felt like as that went on, the effort into like how much they were gonna put into like each era of like, I feel like by the time they got to 90s sitcoms, they were kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like Malcolm in the Middle, I guess. It did feel as like fully formed as like, and I feel like we just were spending less time in those eras because as the plot had to like hurry along. So, it was like, oh, we got like a couple episodes when we were like in the 50s, so like let's like slow down a little bit. It's yeah, a lot of the stuff just needs to slow down, like in terms of the production, in terms of the storytelling, letting things breathe. And to this movie's credit, there are wonderful moments that are just like two characters having a conversation. Like a thing that I was kind of dreading is like from the trailers is like, oh, it doesn't look like these guys have any chemistry in terms of, like, I like these actors individually, but like, are they gonna like feel like a family? And I was like, no, yeah, like there's Reed and Sue stuff where it's like they have mature disagreements and then conversations about like what to do in terms of like their child's future. And I was like, that's actually like pretty mature for the MCU. But then in terms of like, if you look at other superhero stuff we've talked about in Superman, that felt weird, that like the relationship drama and that boils down to like, oh, Lois Lane, she's really a nag, she really keeps nagging this perfect guy as Superman, and then she admits that she's wrong. Like he never has to be like, sorry, I see your point of view. And it's like, no, like the Reed and Sue actually are like meeting each other and respecting each other, even though like it easily could be like Reed's the smartest guy ever, like he just like treats people like shit. And it's like, no, he respects his wife, like they're equals in this. And there's not even, he doesn't even like trying. I like that he doesn't try and talk her out of going to space when they have to go. He knows she's gonna go. He's just like reminding her of like, yeah, this is like the first time a pregnant woman's like done any of this. And then also, yeah, it was just like, this is gonna be crazy that we're doing this. Like, and just like, I'm doing the precautions. I'm figuring it out. Like, we're gonna do it, but
I mean, the fact that they know how to go to space at all, I'm just like, wait, so I guess they must have taken a lot of courses, with NASA or something in space flight or whatever. I mean, they have that old footage of them, right? Like in it before their initial mission, and whatever. Speaking of which, I really appreciated the presence of, I mean, in regard to the style of the film, I really liked how they do have those newsreels. They have that 60s style. I don't know. You see it on the television. You sometimes see an imitation, I think, of classic newsreel footage,
Mm-hmm.
which to me was a really, really nice uh, I don't know, device throughout the film. And also, I just generally kind of appreciated how, uh, let's face it, a lot of contemporary blockbuster movies are not shot or lit that well. And I think this film as a whole was really, well, I mean, pretty decent. Let's put it that way, right? Like just in terms of the basic visual language. And I liked how, in addition to the retrofuturism, you just have that. You can just tell just by watching it, there's a certain level of um I don't know, there's like a certain level of craft there, and I think the use of newsreels throughout was something that really helped it stand out from the usual Marvel house style. Yeah, and I also like the dynamic. I like the dynamic that there was that one scene where they have an argument, right? um and I don't remember the specifics of it, but I remember watching that and I'm like, wow, I did not expect this to be in a Marvel movie. This feels a bit more mature
Was it
in
the
terms of
argument
how.
where they're arguing about whether they should use their child for bait for Galactus, or or the fact that Reed thought about it or something, and she
I
got
think,
got
yeah, I think it's the one where Reed had thought about it, and it's like, and it becomes more about like his tendency, I guess, like to always have to, overthink everything and try to be. I don't know, just something about that, and Reed's overall. I don't think like they even say it, but it almost felt sometimes like maybe Reed is a little bit on the spectrum, like he's so smart that it disconnects him emotionally from other people, or something like that. And yeah, so I think that's the scene that I'm talking about, right? And I remember and seeing that, I was just like, wow, this is like a good scene. This is one of those things that made me like the movie more than I initially expected.
Yeah, I think Pascal's Reed, his performance is a lot like more layered than like for the trailers and commercials. I was like, oh, is he? It seems kind of flat, like he's just like not there. But then in context, it's reading as like, yeah, like there is a little bit of a spectruminess to Reed, but then also just like this burden and guilt that he's carrying with him of like, yeah, they're beloved celebrities and stuff, but like if he could have done it a different way, like he probably would wish that his family and friends weren't like changed, like changed by cosmic ray, like the guilt that he has, like when they're about to go back into space, and Ben's saying like, who could have known, and he's like, I could have, and then now on top of that weight and guilt, it's the fate of everyone, so like that's, and then that's what leads to those kind of conflicts, is like he has to consider those possibilities, because he's like, who else is going to figure this out? Like everyone's going to die. Like it's like, I don't want to give up my child, but it's like, well, what the fuck, I gotta like figure out something here, because, and he plays that really well. I think it's a good performance by him.
No, for sure. And I will point out though that I love all of that stuff. Though I did have a problem with the whole, yeah, when they come back and Reed actually tells the people what Galactus's offer was, and why they rejected it, like the price was too high and everything. But I'm just like thinking, I did not buy that he would actually reveal that Galactus told me to, to sacrifice our child. Like I'm just like, why would you tell everybody that? Like you're turning, like it's just setting yourself up to be, it's just setting yourself up like for it's like it's like you're going out into sniper fire with like no armor and like waving a flag and stuff.
The version that would have made more sense is that he like comes up with some lie and is like, oh, we weren't able to come to terms with Galactus, and then it's somehow revealed, like, I don't know if there was like something being recorded from their spacesuits that got leaked or something, and then the public finds out, like, oh, he asked for your baby, you didn't tell us that, like that becomes like, you still could have had it become like that they're at odds, but yeah, for him to, it's just like he's just kind of, I guess your read of it has to just be that he's like kind of just like checked out and in a daze in that moment, because he's still like doing the math in his head of like what he just like doesn't know what to do. And I do like the beat of when someone asks like, are we gonna be safe, or are we safe, and he's just like, I don't know, like it was something that he probably rarely has to admit to, at least to put maybe to himself. He's like been stumped a couple of times, had to come back to something, but like then to admit to like the world at large, like, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do to save you guys. Like, this is a pickle. But he did not have to volunteer that immediately. The first person who asked it, he's like, yeah, they asked for a kid. Sorry, he just couldn't do it. He's like, hey, or found some better way to break that to everyone. That yeah, that
Could have handled that better.
It's just that would have added more runtime, I guess, to like, flesh out that conflict and have it evolve more organically. And this movie kind of just has to, once we're at that point, we kind of just have to go, it's like, well, yeah, so they know now. All right, whatever. Which, yeah, probably would have benefited from a little more time, that we could have either done what I said, like it gets leaked somehow, or something happens.
No, that would have made way more sense, I think. But it is what it is. That's one of the problems, I think. I just realized, Elvis. So, what are your thoughts? On the film, and your general impressions and everything we've been talking about and stuff.
Well, just want to say first off, I did enjoy the movie. I definitely enjoyed it more than Superman. That's not a high bar for Superman. Sorry, Superman is a lot of fun. It's a lot of candy-coated fun, but it's like a really, really weak movie in so many ways. And this has really good bones, you know. And I do agree with both of you by saying, it is helped by being more intimate, more downscale, not looking into a lot of these bigger action set pieces, but I don't think it needed. I really don't. But I do think that it is insanely boring, like 70% of the time. And not because of the action, because what Doug was saying, that it doesn't explore enough about the outside overall kind of world the Fantastic Four live in, and which, especially even when it would be interesting to do so, because otherwise it's just these four characters and they're done well enough compared to other movies in this franchise. But even then, it's not like, well, yeah, that scene with Reed and Sue and is really good, but it's kind of good for this type of movie. It's not like, oh man, I'm like watching a Richard Linklater movie here, man. It's like some Ari Aster type shit. No, it's like, I mean, it's good. I mean, it's interesting to see this finally, like, have a human, like feel like someone actually who has a life experience kind of wrote that kind of scene. It actually has some impact to it, but it's like, it's not enough to keep my interest going. And so, like, moments in the movie, I was just starting to glaze over. And I don't know. It's like at the end of it, I'm like, you know what? This is like if the Tim Story movies were like 3% more competent, you know? And that's how it came off like this. I'm not, Tim Story movies are undeniably just kind of flat out bad, like most of them. But I'm not going to say they're like awful or unwatchable. They have some nice moments. They're just really dull. And this is about equally as dull, except for a few points that really make the difference. So that's kind of where my thoughts lie. I just found it so boring. And then oh, this is interesting. And then like, no, this is boring again.
It gestures at a lot of interesting things, and then is like, okay, but we don't have time, and it's like, why don't we have time? Like you're the one telling the story. You could make there be time for this and cut some time out of the end of like Galactus walking through a building or so. I don't know. Like if you need to keep it that runtime, like then cut it out of the action set pieces, which are the least interesting part.
And was Galactus like a good avenue for this kind of story? Because Galactus is like a big kind of deal. And so when you strip it down to just these 4 characters, you're like, well, you don't feel that much of a big deal. As you mentioned, you don't see the impact on the world, especially when it starts to like get some momentum. That entire stretch of time in the movie where they're actually going through a Reed's teleport the world plan, and it's kind of like, oh, we got to coordinate this, we got to coordinate that, we got to build this, we got to do this stuff, we got to.
They're just montaging through like power shortages and stuff, and it's like. Yeah. Everyone's on board with this. That there's not going to be like, I mean, we all lived through COVID where people didn't even want to put a mask on. So the fact that
exactly,
people are going to be like, oh yeah, I'll turn off everything at night so we can teleport the planet.
The world is small, you know. It's like a unified world government, basically, you know, with these like 4 godlike American beings at the very top, you know.
And so like
well, Fantastic Four told me to conserve power, so I have to do it.
So the thing is, right, you're right. It makes it feel so simplistic and so rushed, but that is undeniably to me the most interesting part of the movie. Just seeing at the very least then coordinates. It's like, oh my god, this is interesting. It feels like it has some stakes, some ambition. Like this is like a really weird thing to see in this kind of movie where like it feels almost in the vicinity of like a Shin Godzilla kind of thing, you know, where they're coordinating how to get the trains on time.
That should have been the reference point there. Yeah, because that's like all meetings, and like occasionally you get a little bit of city destruction that feels apocalyptic.
That's exactly. That should have been it. So I feel like they didn't go far enough. This should have been like the Andromeda strain or something, you know, like go like full like early 70s like science social commentary, you know.
Because it's just Reed and them figuring out something and telling everyone else this is what we're doing.
And like the same 2 sets, you know.
Yep.
Here's our apartment loft.
But we never see like the human level of them having to figure out their part in it, and like I feel like that
it's so dull.
We should have gotten like 50 new characters, you know, and all these different governments and like level of bureaucracy, and like you know, like and walking around. Okay, like we need the transport administration's authority in order to set up like this.
That would have been cool. That would have been cool. Honestly, because right now we have nothing, and so I was like sleeping. My brother fell asleep during the movie. I was like, oh my god, he's lucky. I'm like, I wish I could fall asleep because it was so boring. Okay. It got so boring.
Okay, I personally do not agree that it was boring. I actually really liked the pace of this film. You know, that montage.
It's not about the pace. It's about like what it's in service to. I never thought the movie dragged, but like the things we're seeing are just not interesting things. That's in my purview. Like
I get what you're saying. For me, I was still locked in emotionally, like with our core 4, but it does hurt overall, especially if you're dealing with such a large scale thing like Galactus. That like the outside world and the rest of the civilians shouldn't feel like NPCs
or afterthoughts. You know, like it's a big thing, and like that those scenes like when they're coordinating stuff, the little that we see coordinating, or you know Sue's speech, those are nice good scenes, but they would have more impact or more emotional investment if we understood like how things actually are going. And like it's like, oh, like 1 minute later we have like 30 of these pylons built. Oh, okay. Like, no, come on, man. Let me feel something.
It should at least feel like they have some kind of personal relationship to the most that you get that from is like when Ben walks through the street. But I kind of want to talk about that. I do feel like he's shortchanged in terms of like
100%. We know for sure. We've seen behind the scenes photos of scenes that are not in this movie with Ben.
because even Johnny gets like you mentioned that moment of like revealing Silver Surfer's origin, like he gets to do some like creative problem solving stuff. Like everyone's like, at least in our main characters are like figuring out things and trying to work this, and Ben's kind of just there. I mean, we see him like leave, and she goes to see Natasha Lyonne, who is with her limited screen time, is really putting in a performance that's like, I really just want to fuck this rock guy. I mean, there's like no screen, there's no like, I would like to see that relationship like fleshed out, because like Ben being in a romantic relationship sounds cool. Like that would be great if we had scenes of them like on a date.
You mean like the other 3 movies? So. Yeah, no, I don't know if I want to go on tangent now. 'Cause I do have a lot of things to say about Rachel Rosman, who is, I think, why does this character exist at all? So I'm gonna say right now, because I don't know if we're gonna have time for it later. But Rachel Rosman is the most useless character I've ever seen in my life. And let's see here. Also, it's cowardice. I think that this character only exists because of several layers of cowardice. One, they didn't want to use Alicia Masters because they didn't want to send the message that only a blind person could love the thing. Is, I think, the most likely reason why they didn't use.
Which is fine. He can be with a person with vision. You know, I'm not opposed to that part of it.
My second theory, though, is that it's the 60s and they didn't want to give him a black love interest or recast Kerry Washington for the first time to a white woman.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's like a lot of this world not wanting to dwell on things. It's like
the 60s, yeah.
It's like, so if we did invite race in it, do we need to talk about that? And it's like that's the third rail.
Did the civil rights movement happen? Who knows?
You just you saw some edited footage of Reed standing behind MLK or something. you could have showed them being part of it in a newsreel.
Hey, apparently, according to someone, I don't know if they were trolling or not, said that that they had gone to a test screening last year where there was like, in part of the newsreel footage, there was them with JFK.
See, like I wouldn't have mind like fun like Forrest Gump-esque things like that, where you just edit them into history, like because that makes us feel like more of a full out world. As it is, it feels like it's just a setting for the story that these characters are going through, rather than like an actual world. And that's when you do these alternate timelines. Like, I'm not even talking about like within comic universes. Like, it was just like in general, like I like speculative like historical fiction like that, where you're like changing events and being like, okay, what would this mean? It's like, yeah, what would that mean? It's like that you have these astronauts that became like worldwide superheroes. Like, what did that mean? And what did that mean in terms of like United States place as a global superpower? But then you're starting almost like dipping into Watchmen territory of like the politics. I mean, that's interesting to me, but like, they're just like, that's not gonna fly for like mainstream audiences. But yeah, I don't know, that would have been cool. So like, why not do stuff like that?
Actually, I do want to ask though, was it confirmed that the film is set in the 1960s, or is it in fact the 2020s, but in the style of the 60s? Because I was
60s, I think. Pretty sure it's the 60s.
I don't remember them saying an actual year. They say the universe number, but it's to me, I read it as the 60s. But if you told me it's like, oh, it's like Fallout, where it's like 50s coded.
Hey, Jack and Stan show up and they're like in their 30s. So
wait, they do?
Jack and Stan. We talked about this before.
Wait. I'm sorry. Do they show up in the actual movie? Because I think I got that confused with. I thought they were in the comics and stuff.
But they're in the movie and they're young. They got
as character, like they're physically there.
Yeah. Did you see them? They're like, you see them like working on a comic, and then they look out the window when the Silver Surfer shows up.
Oh,
I missed that.
Really?
Yeah. That was I don't know. I wasn't falling asleep, so I don't know what I was doing that I missed that.
You can see, that's got like 2 guys who look a lot like 60s era, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and they hold their face, and then they zoom back into like their office, and it's like a bunch of Jack Kirby artwork everywhere. You realize that was like the whole point of that, like 15 seconds they held on these two guys.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly,
So they're young, so
I
it's the
totally
60s.
missed that. Okay.
So they're
No,
young,
but
it's
I'm
the
also I guess like part of my whole thing is also like wait, so how are they gonna reconcile this timeline wise with whenever they go into the prime MCU world or
Michael
whatever?
Crichton
Like,
rules. Michael Crichton rules. Okay.
Timey-wimey, like
But you know what I mean, right? Like I always love this because I think Timeline is the most underrated Michael Crichton novel ever written. Because I love this because it's not time travel. It's traveling to another dimension that is in the past. But the way the multiverse works is everything has to match. So every alternate universe is exactly the same, and whatever happens in one universe happens in the other universes. Everything has to match. So in Timeline, the Michael Crichton novel, they go to like a medieval alternate universe, and whatever changes they make there happen in every universe, including their own. So it's like time travel, and it's like changing the past, but it's not really. It's a great
interesting.
novel.
I
Bad
mean,
movie, great novel.
I would be I am curious as to how all of that will ultimately be explained, if it is at all. I mean, I just saw Loki finally.
Fantastic. Yeah.
great
Yeah,
show.
it is like I mean, I love the second season, right?
Oh,
But also
amazing.
yeah, but like also it's just like wait a second. So how does time travel and multiple universes work again? Because is it actually infinite, infinite branches or whatever, or is it like parallel worlds that don't have temporal relations to one another? Because it's still kind of, or is it kind of
Don't
sort
worry
of a
about
bit of both?
don't worry about it. Is the answer. Because it does feel like they pitched that show as like Marvel's Doctor Who, and I kind of just had to have that that mindset of like, okay, they're using their own rules that maybe aren't even consistent with like what Endgame had established how time travel and these timelines work. And I was like, well, while I'm watching Loki, the rules that Loki tells me are the ones that matter, and while I'm watching whatever in Doomsday, when they're talking about timelines, those are the rules that I'm gonna go by when I'm watching that. Like, are they gonna match up? Who knows? It could be an all of the above thing where they're all true somehow, and then maybe the TVA has its own thing happening since they're like outside of time, and
But you can still time slip in the TVA. So are they outside of time? I mean, being outside. What does that even mean? Outside of time, other than I guess like nobody or nothing ages there, but stuff like still happens in a linear progression or what? I don't know. um, yeah, at the end of the day, I think I just love how in season 2, they just kind of decide to embrace they just embrace the emotion of it. It's like, they even have a whole episode about it. Like, look, it's not really about the science. It should be about like the why, the emotion of it. Okay, that's like how you control like your time powers or something, right? Like just forget about everything else and focus on focus on the people, right? And that's like when it really becomes great. um but yeah, I guess don't think about it. I don't know, it's just like weird, right? I mean, they never mention a specific year in this movie, and I'm like, well, it's retro futuristic, so I guess it must be. And then it's like they specifically say at the end like 4 years later, so I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess this began like 3 years before Thunderbolts or something like that. But then okay, I guess given all of the things you guys pointed to, I guess I shouldn't even think about what the timeline is.
it's gonna be a crying situation. I'm on Elvis's page now. I think it is gonna be like that. Their their universe just moves at a different pace. So yeah, even if they are in the 60s when they come over here or to the MCU universe, and their color palette has to get all gray, They should comment on that. They're like, oh wow, we had like lighting in our
You
universe.
mean like
now.
the Metaverate? That was really good in the Metaverate. You've seen the Metaverate. My favorite joke was in the first half of the first episode. Like they're going to a conspiracy theorist convention, and what conspiracy theories is, and at those point everything's like shot on like standard def, like handheld camcorder, kind of quality. And one of the conspiracy theory was is like, hey man, no one will ever tell you this, but America's in HD. Right, like what do you mean America's in HD? So when they cross over, you actually see it like shift like physically from standard def to HD.
Now you're kind of selling me on the Ventavra.
It's great, man. It's so good. It's so good, man. It's like his last hurrah. It's his glass. It's Michael.
It's Michael Myers' glass. Well, that
Yeah.
actually is like really hyping me now.
It's good.
Wait, what show is this?
The Pentaveret.
Michael Myers had a Netflix show where he plays like the Pentaveret,
Illuminati.
like, yeah, the Illuminati, and he plays like all the members of it, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I have never heard of this.
It's a spin-off, technically, of So I Married an Axe Murderer, where he made this joke up for the first time. He's like, well, actually, make a TV show.
So wait, it's in the continuity of So I Married an Axe Murderer?
Well, that's where you first. Well, the main character's dad, who also done Mike Myers in that movie, is a conspiracy theorist, and he's like, there's a group called the Pentaveret that rules the world, And so I guess that's where the Pentaveret came from, yeah, as a joke, as an idea. So technically, yeah. So you can watch both of those. They're seamless. They're seamless movies. Anyway, let's talk about the
Mike
Illuminati.
Myers cinematic universe. That's the MCU I'm invested in.
Yeah, the MCU. All right. But no. So I want to get back to, we're talking about scale and all of that. Here's something I want to bring up. Galactus, just as boring as the Cloud. And put it out there. He had great voice, but this Galactus, I want to say it, it's a second fumble. Okay, he's got a great voice, great design, but other than that, like, who cares about Galactus? I don't. And it's me. I'm like, thank God he's gone. He was a dead weight.
I feel like if you're gonna cast Ralph Ineson, someone who's so fucking great, especially he can play scary, like some scary otherworldly force, but then also have like some kind of like personality to it. Like that's basically what he is in the Green Knight, where it feels like he's like this supernatural force, but then also he's like he's like playing with him in it. So not that I wanted like Legs to be playful, but he like some kind of like, I know like the hunger, that's what drives him. Yes, yeah, but you could have used that in ways to make, because
add some depth and nuance, because
he might as well be a Cloud if it is just going to be as impersonal as that, or you could just make it like, oh, it's kind of like alcoholism, like it's like, or whatever, and insert metaphor here, of like this thing that he can't, help, but he like really needs.
It's so blunt
to be free of it.
and point blank, like it's so tunnel vision, like he is a prop, and like that's and you were saying, because you got this guy who's can really, has a great voice, great presence. He can really do some really depthy, nuanced acting. It's like the hunger, the baby, Succession. Like, okay, what's, you might as well just be saying nothing. Just let Julia Garner speak for you, because you're not giving me any information that isn't really, really obvious, or just like, you can't say what you're feeling. That makes me angry,
He reminded me of Vigo in Ghostbusters 2. That
Vigo had presence though.
And he didn't even leave the painting until the very end. he was just talking in a painting, and you're like, oh shit,
the scourge of Moldavia.
Command me, Lord.
That was good shit. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like someone posted images the other day. I think it was Jean. He was reading Fantastic Four, and on Twitter, and he posted pages from the Galactus trilogy. And Galactus and that is pounding out some classic Lee Kirby style Shakespearean dialogue, And like, where was this in the movie? You got this guy. He's not Clown anymore. Have him say some of this weighty, philosophical, beatnik stuff. Okay. That's what I'm here for. That's what you gotta bring the seats in for. Because otherwise, like, just the
But he's
cloud was
been
cooler.
around for a billion years and he's seen the birth of this universe, like almost every cinematic version of like some kind of immortality I've seen, or where someone's been around. It's like really tragic and sad and evokes some kind of pathos. Like, I do feel like there was a missed opportunity to not even have some kind of like, it just seemed like him needing to get rid of the hunger was perfunctory and like a purpose of the plot. Like, he needs to do it because he needs to do it for the plot, but like it should have felt like personal, of like, this is just, he cannot take this anymore. Like, that this is just like almost like a, because it is kind of vague in terms of how the movie presents it. If he was to give the hunger successfully to Franklin, would he die? And then if that, because then you could make that clear of like, yeah, he just wants to die. Like, he's tired of like being around and having to do this forever. Like, he's kind of just like just let me sleep, man. And that would be something. Like, you just make him like a little bit tragic. I'm not saying like we need to relate to him and be like, oh yeah, Galactus was right.
Make
Hashtag
it feel like a
Galactus was right.
person. I mean, like, not like a person, but make him feel like he has like some sort of personality. He doesn't really, and that's a shame because that's
I
twice fumbled.
think no, but look, okay, so I like this take on Galactus more than the previous take on Galactus as a cloud. I think that there was definitely a conflict, if you will, in terms of how to portray him, right? Like, do you portray him as this godlike, unknowable force, or do you indeed try to characterize him and make him feel somewhat relatable? And I think this movie kind of tries to have it both ways, and maybe, and that's where it stumbles, because really the first scene with him, and I thought that was really a cool scene, right? They don't spoil his appearance in the opening prologue or anything. I really appreciated that. The first time he shows up, you're not even sure if he is if he's like a part of the ship, or if he's like, where is he, like, what, like that gradual reveal of him and his eyes and everything. And he actually has like what feels like a real scene there, where he talks about I guess his past. And I didn't really understand all of the dialogue though, simply because of the acoustics in the theater, because I think he mentioned something about how he used to be just a normal man and then he was cursed by somebody who came from another universe or something. Um, but that I thought was interesting. That kind of gave him some real personality and drive and goal. And then afterwards, they kind of don't really explore it like that much. Like, you don't really, they don't really get into what that means.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
best scene with him. And then he's just like I was saying, he's just a prop at that point. So
he's functional. I would say he.
The cloud was functional. Okay, I mean, let's be honest. Like,
No, but look, I mean, I think it's, again, like, where do you place emphasis? Because I think like this is a movie that clearly wants almost all the emphasis to be on the family. It's less about what
I got it.
Galactus wants
I
you to
got
do.
it. I got the
Yeah.
perfect compromise. Okay, okay. So technically, and people have noted this. It's kind of like they're both named Martha at this point, but technically, Galactus is kind of like a parallel to Reed Richards. Okay, because he was on a ship with his compatriots going into space to try, and then they get caught up in this cosmic bullshit that changes, well, at least one of them forever. And so the people have noticed that there's parallels the whole time. The Immortal Hulk noted it. Tom Scioli noted it in Fantastic Four Grand Design, where like has a fake out prologue where it's like, let me know if you heard this one before. And me and three friends go into a spaceship, and it's like, oh, is that the Fantastic Four? No, it's actually Galactus and his friends. So why not actually begin this the same way, where you think you're seeing the origin of Fantastic Four?
that would have been actually fantastic if they had done that. Yeah.
But then it turns out it's actually
Pretty cool.
Galactus' origin, and then later on, you're like, it's not just the hunger, it's the shame. Like maybe like you said, that's like an addiction, an eating disorder because of the shame that he couldn't save his other friends. Like Reed feels the regret over changing, his friends' lives, and then you can have that parallel, like they both see this child as a type of salvation. Reed seeing it like, new life, for a new kind of beginning for everyone. And then like Galactus saying like, actually no, I'd rather sacrifice this to roll back the clock for myself. I feel like that would have worked. I do think so.
I mean, the most memorable comic book, at least comic movie villains, do benefit from having some kind of like personal parallel with our hero. Like, so I do think that would have enhanced the movie, and you still could have kept the emphasis on the family. It would just be like, yeah, I mean, you could have like be like, well, that Galactus's friends were like family to him, and that was what he lost when he was cursed with the hunger or something.
And the power cosmic, they bring it up like the Reed has to write it down on like the wall. He doesn't know what it is.
He puts it on a chalkboard,
and it never comes up again. Like what actually power cosmic thing, but like that's what gives you your powers. So why are you writing it down on a chalkboard? Why are we not dealing this more? Again, they both get their powers in the same place. You could say maybe if you want to stretch it out, like maybe the Fantastic Four are their own elemental force, and Galactus comes to respect that or something, or comes to understand that. And so it's like the immovable object meets the unstoppable force, that kind of philosophical thing. Why were you writing this movie? I don't know. It should have been written better.
I was curious about something. So, if I understand it correctly, in the source material, Galactus consumes planets by himself, right? In this movie, the way they made it seem is that like he has a giant ship, right? That seems to
No, the ship
consume
does
like
it.
all of the physical matter, and then it sort of feeds
ship
it through
does it.
those tubes, right? The ship always does it?
The ship has always done. That's his world ship. It always had a thing. It wasn't just gonna be himself. He doesn't like chew on it. The ship does, composite it. Yeah.
Ah, okay, yeah, because no, I didn't know that. I thought like, well, how does he eat planets? I assume he probably just is big enough to literally take, like take like a bite out of the earth or something. But no, but this was an interesting thing that like I was just a little bit unclear from the movie's details. Wait, so so that's how he feeds? It's like the ship, I guess, like composts the matter of the planet, right? And it feeds him through those tubes in his back, right?
But see, this is what I mean is that like it shows you these things or gives you enough to like kind of want you, which is fine if a movie like doesn't explain every single thing, but it's like it's leaving too much on the table in a way that it's like you've opened the door for us to like kind of have him be a more personal villain, because otherwise if he's supposed to be this inscrutable thing, because I like you I was kind of unclear about that, because I had kind of pictured of like, oh, Galactus is just like an elder god in like the Cthulhu mythos. He's just like a fucking on, you can't even like see how large they are, and they just can go through space or whatever. They don't need a ship, but so it's like he needs to, if he was just going to be like some force, then it needs to be that like don't even have him mention that he had used to be a person. Like don't bring that up unless you're going to use it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it gestures at like character depth, but it just becomes the hunger, the baby, also sumo time. Do not get into this ring. I mean, come on. Why was there a 30-second timer? Oh, this bullshit. But let's see. I don't know, man.
Wait, you mean at the end about like why they had the timer before
Yeah.
they
I mean, yeah,
I
the timer.
I think it was no, I think it was pretty clear. Like, he kind of
They can
makes
only
his
keep
way.
it open that long.
Yeah, but he gets out of it immediately. So why don't you just have it like 10 seconds, man?
Well, they needed more. They didn't know, like how.
He got in there really quickly.
And then they needed to have that moment where Johnny decides to, sacrifice himself, but like, the Silver Surfer actually does it instead. Like, I mean, it was all for that. It's all like leading up to that moment. Like, I think they telegraphed it quite obviously, really.
But
the MCU likes having people fight over who's gonna sacrifice themselves. Like, no, I want to kill myself. No, I do.
Yeah. So Kendall, you're right. You're right, because it was Thor and Jane Foster, and then it was Hawkeye and Black Widow. Now it's Johnny and Silver Surfer. Who will be next? Spider-Man is Spider-Man. Just, come on, just do
Which one?
it.
No, but honestly, I think Johnny Storm was maybe my favorite character in this by the end of the movie. I don't know. I think they really do something interesting with him, and the relationship, such as it is with the Silver Surfer, is like I don't know. I just really love that sequence. I like how they have this strange connection that's not exactly romantic, although they kind of joke around about it maybe a little too much. People keep saying it's his girl, but I find that ultimately it's like he manages to get through to her. Like he seems to understand her on on a level that the other characters don't, right? So I love that moment where he's like, well, can it be me? Does it have to be the child? I would sacrifice myself. I would gladly give up like myself. Also, I will say that I was totally expecting their universe to die at the end of the movie, because I think
That's
like
what I
she
thought was going to happen.
yeah, because on the one hand you had that tag and Thunderbolts, but also she literally says something like, why don't you just leave this world or something? Why don't you just flee for either another planet or another universe? Maybe she said something to that extent. I was like, oh my god, is Galactus really going to destroy their world? And that's why we see that ship heading for
But the more that went on, I was like, that'd be too bold of a character, because it's like, oh, then they're gonna be like cowards who abandoned their, which to me would be interesting, because they would then carry all this like shame of like, oh my god, like they sacrificed billions and they just like fled their reality. To me, that would like add like so much like depth to them going forward, and in these other stories, it's like not just like because then it's gonna kind of feel weightless when they just hop to the new reality. That it's like, yeah, they just did that, and then it had carried the weight of like, hey, yeah, they did this, but like billions of people died. So and then yeah, I mean, I thought at first they were gonna do that, but then as it got closer, I was like, oh, okay, they are gonna temporarily resolve this Galactus thing. Although I kind of do like that they even admit that like this is not really. They're like, we're sending him really, really far away, but it's like he will eventually find his way back. Like everyone who is dealing with this problem now will be long dead, but it's like you're just kicking the can down the road, like thousands or maybe
It's a very
even
Futurama-esque thing.
of like, we can't actually solve this. So I do like that. It's like they can't
or like
actually defeat him.
even the first plan of teleporting the Earth was a temporary measure, because he could have found them anyway.
Right, like that was just kicking the can down the road. And it's like, yeah, we're just buying time. We're just putting some space between us.
I mean, I wondered though, man, are they really going to pull this off, right? With the whole teleporting the planet thing? I mean, wouldn't that like destroy the planet? Because you would need to find like another solar system and like place it in just the right place so that, it continues, I don't know, like spinning around, like spinning around the sun and everything. But like, ultimately they did not have to answer that question. So,
I could have used more Mole Man. I like Paul Walter Hauser in the like
yes.
like the few scenes we had. I just like him as a screenplay. I mean, he's great in Naked Gun. This should have been the summer of Paul Walter Hauser, and then Mole Man stealing scene, because I do like that. Like, yeah, there's that history between them, but Sue is reaching out to him and kind of has to. Basically all he's looking for is like some respected acknowledgement, and like you have to give him that, and then yeah, he'll like help you evacuate and store the people. And I also do like that it has to be her to do it, because like Reed just kind of has to walk out and leave the room. Like he can't take this guy seriously, even if the fate of the planet or at least their city is on the line of like they need to get those people down there. And it's like, yeah, just let Sue handle this, she's better with people.
I gotta say, I did like the Mole Man, but I also think that he was a substitute for Doctor Doom, because there's so many times throughout this movie, I was watching it, like this scene would be improved if Doctor Doom dropped in just to insult Reed. This scene would be improved. This scene would be improved. It kind of feels like he's missing. Like I feel like that's the big thing we're losing.
Same actor, have him play Doctor Doom.
Yeah. We're missing by having Doctor Doom be sidelined for a future film, because he should be in this one. He should have been there trading barbs. He should have been there being.
I rolled my eyes when they show the future Foundation meeting, and it's like Latveria. Oh, he's not there. Who's there? Who's gonna be there?
I know, right? And so I feel like Mole Man was partially a result of the screenwriters knowing that this was an issue, because, I mean, it kind of, why is Mole Man the one who's like, you're coming groveling to me, Fantastic Four? You have to beg and say I'm better than you. Why is Mole Man the one doing that? Kind of seems like a very Doctor Doom thing to do. That should have been Doctor Doom's role in this. I mean, I like the scene. I just kind of wish that there was more of them and they were all Doctor Doom.
They could not afford Robert Downey Jr.
They should never gone
for those seeds, okay? I mean, because he
shouldn't be Doom.
He shouldn't be Doom. That's honest.
He's too expensive now, you know.
He shouldn't be Doom. He shouldn't be Doom.
Probably not, but I mean, they need to do some stunt casting and blah blah blah.
I don't think make good movies.
Avengers is still a brand name, okay? People would still see Avengers. If it was good, people would see it again. They don't need Robert Downey Jr. is the most Band-Aid patch I've ever seen in my life. But I did like that. I also like the very beginning when the montage was like, this is all Reed Richards' fault for his dedication to progress and happiness. It's so good.
Honestly, when I think about it, it's interesting how, again, these, Marvel is clearly skipping over a lot of the, I don't know, what would you call it? They're very impatient to bring these characters, right, like into the mainline MCU conflict, right? So just like with the Thunderbolts, like you can kind of feel like, okay, these characters would be better served by having at least another film, right? And it's intriguing how, right, like this movie does skip over their origin, but you get the sense that, man, they have a pretty big rogues gallery by the time this movie starts, right? So I kind of wonder, in a better world, maybe we would get an actual proper Fantastic Four origin film with Mole Man as like the main villain or something, and then his scenes here would make more sense. Like if this were a sequel, you know what I'm saying?
Or not even an origin, just don't jump straight to Galactus and like the fate of the entire world. Like that, I feel like there is, even if the focus is more intimate with these characters, like the in terms of the stakes always needing to be at that level now. It's like
Cosmic.
I guess it's just like we've gone into space in the multiverse, so it's like them just dealing with Mole Man or some local gang thing wouldn't be big enough, but you could have presented in like some kind of ethical dilemma way where it does feel like real stakes, and it's like, oh, these are like weighty decisions they have to make. It doesn't, the size, like the actual physical size of the threat is immaterial at the end of the day. Like it's like what that threat represents and what it means to our characters, and you can do that with all sorts of whether it's cosmic, whether it's something from Earth, something from another dimension, another society. I like a lot of Fantastic Four stuff is where they introduce like other civilizations like Wakanda, or like not Aquaman. What's the Marvel version of the underwater guy who was in? He was in Wakanda Forever.
Namor.
Namor, yeah, like they do stuff. They interact with Namor and his civilization a lot in the comics. Like some kind of like thing like that you could have even explored, of like where it's like they have to kind of like basically do diplomacy between like the human world as we know it, and then like the civilization that initially wanted to remain hidden or like has some reason for not wanting to deal with things. And then you could eventually like last act escalate like, oh no, they're gonna blow up the world, because I guess that's what you need to do that. So you still could have that be an element of it, although the like ethical problem solving dilemma part of it is more interesting to me. And like, yeah, I feel like there was definitely opportunity to do more of that even in this with Galactus, but they kind of just yada through it of like, all right, they said we gotta set up the pylons cut to pylon set. And it was like, oh, so that was just super easy, barely inconvenience. They just did it. I mean, yeah, of course there's setbacks because Silver Surfer just like tears through it. I will say I do, yeah, I liked her. And the best action of the movie, even though that's like not the part I even look forward to in these movies anymore, was when they were trying to escape her after that first Galactus meeting, because the stakes felt personal of like, oh, Sue's giving birth now, they need to leave, they need to get this baby like the fuck away from Galactus, and that they're kind of just like taking turns batting her away, and then just the relentlessness of her, like in an almost Terminator sense of like, no, yeah, she's still following you, like, oh we went into faster than light speed, like, no, she's in the wormhole. Like, she's still coming. And they had to like use a black hole to just to like get her off their tail. I did enjoy that, and like the whole burst sequence I thought was a strong point of the movie. Were you bored during that?
You could
Alvin?
tell that.
No, okay, so kind of a little.
Really? When she gave birth in zero gravity?
Yeah, because like I wish
That was so
could-
cool.
yeah, it was in text, but I wish I, it's because it's so,
You
wrapped
want to
up
see
in-
that baby coming out. You want to graph.
Yeah, that's me. But no, I mean, like you were saying, I wish I had more of a tether to these characters, because like it's so centered around her giving birth, and I'm like, but who is Sue Storm? Who, like, I don't have the
I get what
connection.
you're saying.
It's such
like,
a big moment. Like, okay, so this character's giving birth, but I only know this character for like 30 minutes total screen time combined by this point.
we only know them in terms of like what we're seeing in this specific scenario and what we've been told through newsreels, right? Like,
Yeah.
I get that's what you're saying, and that's just a structural problem of cutting straight to this moment of like,
Yeah.
not only is this we're going straight to Galactus, but we're going straight to like the moment when Franklin enters their family. So we gotta like kind of skip and you could either put more scenes in at the beginning before that, or it's like, yeah, do all these things need to be happening in their first movie for this.
But I will say though, like you mentioned, the larger than life elder god, cosmic horror kind of stuff, I think worked really well. And like when, as you mentioned, Silver Surfer just keeps, like, she is not beholden to normal everyday things. Her power is the power of the universe. So she just zips right to them. She's a beeline. That was really good. But I also really liked is that it's how much of a looming thing it is that Galactus is heading to Earth, because he, like, you would think feasibly he could just get there, but no, it's like he's entered our solar system. Now he's next to Jupiter. Now he's next to Saturn. He's next to Mars. Like it's a whole thing keeps going. Like, he is just taking his sweet time. He doesn't have. I felt like that felt like such a strong looming presence. Like, it felt very intimidating. I love that stuff. And then he spoke, and it was nothing. So, but that was good. That was good. I really love that kind of stuff. It really felt like the high, like, reaches of the universe, just bearing down on the Fantastic Four in ways that they probably weren't prepared for. So I love that stuff. That's stuff that worked for me a lot.
I will say that one thing that really bothered me though during the chase through, I guess, hyperspace, was that Sue at one point literally tells Johnny to kill the surfer. And I thought, that feels kind of forced, or that just didn't feel, that felt kind of out of character at that point. I don't know, because it's just weird to have, your main like heroine just literally ordering. I mean, she literally orders her brother to kill the surfer and twice, and I'm just like, that seems like way too dark also for that character. I
It
don't
kind
know.
of felt like KGB. I was reminded by KGB in VVS. It was like, I'm gonna kill her, and like Like, that kind of felt like what Sue was like saying. The same pitch of voice. Kill her. Like,
I mean,
okay.
she's about to give birth, and this thing wants her child
How
for
dare you,
to.
Mikhail? She's a working mother.
I kind of like that moment. Like, it was shocking and it did kind of feel out of character, but then it's like, yeah, I mean, there's something, I don't know, there's something primal about like birth and like motherhood, and that when like an animal in the wild, if you threaten like the cub of a lion, she's going to she's going to fucking maul you, like to protect their child. That's just like a hard coded instinct. And like to me, that felt like that was just kicking in, because like it's like, yeah, this is what matters right now, is preserving the life of my baby, so fuck her, kill her.
I can buy that. I think though that was better conveyed during the actual final showdown, because Sue basically manages to more or less topple Galactus, at least for a little bit. Like, I was just like
She
amazed at
solos
how
him.
yeah, I mean, no, but like they totally sold that she could overpower him. Like, you see her basically straining like way beyond her limits there. Like, and I was like, wow, yeah, that feels like almost just primal, like instinctual, I don't know, what do you call it? That, like, effort or um on her part, right? Like, you could buy in those scenes that she would actually and I don't know, maybe part of the problem is that like the power scaling is a little bit like not sure like how powerful is she supposed to be, but in those moments, like the way that they portrayed that, I was like, yeah, I can
Emotionally,
definitely
you
buy that
buy
she would.
it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I thought like that was okay. Oh, okay. I see. Yeah, I take that back. Okay, no problem with that dialogue anymore.
She should have
I
made it
I
hard
will
for
ask
you to
one
not
thing.
kill that bitch.
Uh, okay, here's a question
And then
though.
she
What
hands
exactly
Johnny a
are
gun.
the too much? No. Listen. Here's a question. What exactly are the surfer's powers supposed to be? Because I was kind of
Power cosmic.
confused by. Okay, but what does that mean? I mean, because the surfer seems to be phasing through solid matter, right? In this movie. I mean,
Power
is that
cosmic.
like is that
You just keep saying power cosmic. We're not answering questions at this time.
Power cosmic. All right. All right. That'd be
so
really
the
good.
surfer can do anything, basically?
You know, what'd be really good though is if the movie explained what the power cosmic was, or investigated it in any way, because they wrote it down on a board and zoomed in on it. Foolish me for thinking that they would do anything with it.
I thought he was good, because like if that was some key to like at least understanding Galactus, to like the threat, it's like, yeah, shouldn't Reed be like really looking into that, like if not even if he didn't know at the time, like, yeah, it's like the same thing that made us. He's like, like, okay, well, this is the thing that's coming to destroy everything you know and hold dear. So like, I don't know, it's like look it up. I mean, I guess he has a line of like, yeah, this material from the ship, it's like older than the universe, and it would take so long to analyze it. So they've just kind of like pocketed that, I feel like, and that's just going to be another movie when they're like, oh, okay, now we can like look into what this is. Oh, it's the same part of the same thing that it's like where our powers came from. Like,
I mean, it's a shame because I think it really does show both the highlights and the pitfalls of this movie, because he tries to like scan Franklin, like nothing comes up. So he has that really great moment with Franklin, like, you know what, you don't have to tell me anything. You just gotta be yourself. I don't, when you're ready, if you ever are, you'll tell me. You know,
great scene, yeah.
Yeah, great scene, but it's also
Great
kind of like
scene.
it's also him just giving up on that subplot.
Yeah, a little bit of like, he turns off the machine. It's like, and we will not get those answers today. So
Exactly. So then, yeah, no, pragmatic. I'll see this thing. I'll call Superman a sloppy script. This is pragmatic, but too pragmatic. It's too safe.
well, by involving
Hmm.
Frank, but they invited it themselves by like making this be not just a Galactus movie, but also a Franklin movie. So it's like they will have to, like, they're just tying it then to Franklin of like, okay, well, we're gonna explain that when we get around to explaining him. It's like right now you're just gonna be like, he's just powerful, man. I don't know. They're like, that's what the power cosmic is. It's just powerful shit. I mean, it's funny that like because without any cultural knowledge or anything whatsoever, like most people's favorite reference going into this besides other Fantastic Four movies is going to be, oh, I didn't even mention it, the actual best Fantastic Four movie, The
Crimson
Incredibles,
Tide.
because that
Oh, Crimson Tide. I thought you were gonna say. Damn it.
Crimson but like that was what someone in the theater said like at the end when they saw like Jack or not Jack Franklin bring her back to life, is that he was like Jack you know, like the super powerful baby of the super powered family, like that's people. And like
if we're bringing in Incredibles 2 is the best one.
Explain yourself with that one.
I like the first one more.
You know, I hate the first one so much.
Why do you hate the first one?
Because I hate that there's no normal person who can be a superhero, and it focuses all around that. And like that's just weird to me. I was like 10 watching this movie, like that's bullshit. What do you mean Batman couldn't exist in this universe? Bullshit. So I like the second one more because it doesn't bring that up, and so like okay, we don't need to worry about that. But the first one is like everyone has to have superpowers, or you can't be a superhero.
Well,
bullshit.
Yeah, but it's also like a 60s spy movie, and
the second one's better at all that, you know.
Is there?
It's kind of a remake, though. It's
Green
like,
Slaver is great. The family shenanigans are great. Jack's funnier. Perfect movie.
Okay, agree, disagree on that one. Like, I do think there is. I
was annoying. I hate him.
I love Syndrome. I think he's a much better villain than Screen Slaver.
Screen Slaver's so cool though. I love that part where she's like, driving by after catching him for the first time, and she sees a little girl who's mouthing along with the message. It's great.
Oh yeah, there's something unnerving about it, and like I think she's more interesting than a lot of people give her credit for. But I just think Syndrome is I don't know. There's something about the like insecure villain that just appeal. And wait, Syndrome. Does he doesn't have powers? He's just all
but he's the villain. So I'm like, that's why I don't like it. But like, why isn't there a counterweight? Because it just comes off with the sense that you have to have superpowers to be a superhero. You just have to.
But it makes his frustration more like kind of real. Of like, yeah, he's like fed up that like he's been excluded.
To it. There's no rebuttal to it. You know.
Hashtag Syndrome was right.
Yeah. Hashtag Amon was right. Okay, Amon. Anyway, but no, that's why I'm like, because he also, Brad Bird apparently has some objectivist leanings, and so I felt very objectivist to me, like
In hindsight, I could see that being a part of that when whatever age I was when I saw that was not. I don't think I knew who Rand was. I hadn't even played BioShock yet, so I didn't. I didn't know.
I don't hate it. That's a strong word, but I just it's like Enchanted. It gestures at a theme. And it's like, well, actually, it's not going to let's double down what the theme is trying to say, the opposite of, you know how Enchanted, the Amy Adams movie, where it's like, the beginning is like, she's like a typical princess, but she just has this idea, this vision of what a true love charming was, right? But it turns out actually real life is different. But then at the end of the movie, it turns out that her vision was accurate, that she actually did have a magical vision of her Prince Charming. So like, what was the point of the entire movie then? If she was right the entire time about true love and Prince Charmings.
Yeah, but Amy Adams, isn't she charming, folks?
So I like the second one more because it's about how stupid she was.
Oh, I still haven't seen 2.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
You said you like the second one more than
because it doesn't annoy me, okay, as much as the first one does.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, Fantastic Four. The Mole Man was very much inspired by Underminer because there was no mole men in this movie, but he was very Underminer-y.
And they even refer to it being an underground civilization, but we just see like the entrances when they're evacuating people.
And we see miners,
Right. That was what they almost seem to be suggesting. It's like, it's just people who want to live underground. And it's like,
a demolition man.
The sun is too much for them.
It's like a Demolition Man situation, where like you have like this perfect peachy like pastel society, and then like Dennis Leary in the underground is like, we just want to like be grungy and eat like burgers and drink beer and not be healthy, and that's kind of what it felt like, because like you had the Mole Man saying that thing like, oh, Reed Richards is always dedicated to progression, and like, okay, kind of gives it that vibe. It's just like people who don't give a shit about being in the '60s. They wanted to be the '80s as soon as possible, and that's it. They want to.
Can I get back briefly to Franklin Richards? Because Doug, you said people would only, they would have Incredibles as a frame of reference. But my thought was that the frame of reference would really be baby Jesus, because
Resurrection is part of it.
well, yeah, because like resurrection, and he's like, he's like a child destined to be, destined for greatness and all that stuff. I mean, really, the movie had some interesting biblical references and themes, right? I mean, the whole plot with Galactus is basically like Abraham and Isaac, or like God tells Abraham to kill
right.
his son.
You're absolutely right. And just like Abraham, Reed will be punished by having to live in the 2020s.
I forgot that part of the Old Testament where you goes through the portal and then he ends up in modern times. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I have to say that in that sense, I kind of got what they were going for with Franklin. Like, Franklin is a complete tease, right? He's basically possibly like a future Jesus kind of character. He's going to be, he's going to be the real Marvel Jesus instead of Deadpool. Basically, I think that was the implication.
In terms of like the larger universe, I definitely got that vibe of like, because he is in most accounts, like, he's like one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel universe, and I feel like they're gonna have to be careful and creative of how they portray that, because something being all powerful could be boring. It could also be really good. I feel like the show Legion, which is about the X-Men character Legion, Professor X's son, who's like an all-powerful mutant. Like, that show could have easily been boring of like, oh, this character's like so OP, but it's like, no, that's actually like the problem. And it's like, can other mutants and everyone even trust that he'll be cool with all that power, because he doesn't seem all there, and then that inherently makes him kind of a threat. And then is him exploring like his own morals and what he wants to do with that power is like a struggle. And it's like, oh well, at the end of the day, he kind of just wants to be loved and accepted, but he also can rewrite reality to his will. So it's you're playing with fire there. But the way the show portrays that power is very creative, and like we'll just like delve into other genres. There's like musical numbers where they're having like psychic battles and stuff. So I hope that they aim for something non-traditional with like Franklin's once we actually see them manifesting, and it's not just, because that's when my eyes start glazing over in these movies, when they start doing like kind of power scaling stuff. Like, it's like, oh, he's so fucking powerful, and I'm like, so what does that mean? Like, yeah, he's like really fast, and he like does fucking stuff comes out of him. Like, all right, so look, yeah. I mean, as of now, it is a tease, and there is like a little bit of threatening eeriness to it, of like what is going on with this kid. And you can kind of see that in Reed, and even Sue has those moments of like, yeah, so what's up with our baby? Like, we know he's not normal, and they're gonna have to navigate that. So I do think it was funny in the post credits thing. Like, I think it was a lame way to tease Doom, but in terms of like showing where they're at, that he'll read Darwin, like in terms of like the child's reading, like he that's how advanced he is. Like reading Charles Darwin is like for fun, but then he also is still a kid and like is interested in like kitty things. So like they have to get like Sue's going to grab like a kid's book, that whatever book that was that he requested. Was like, yeah, okay, so today we're not doing like the heavy reading, but he is at that level mentally.
No, I definitely think that, yeah, the character is, yeah. I mean, yeah, I really like that scene, and I'm curious as to how that will be portrayed. I hope they also get creative with with the display of powers. I think the very finale of Loki went into a more abstract depiction of what Loki is capable of now, right? Like like he's able to literally weave branches of time together. I want to see more sequences like that, you know.
You're almost like
So
literalizing a metaphor because it's like time branches
yes,
is like you've talked. Yeah, it's like an abstract concept, but then you're like, no, he actually there's like literal branches now. So like stuff like that is cool, and yeah, I because they kind of have an opportunity of like similar to Legion, like Franklin's power set is kind of just like whatever you want it to be. So hopefully they want it to be something that's not just interesting for us the viewer but also the character, and isn't just like a plot solve. Like here it was fine of like, yeah, he revives his mother because that makes sense, that's a child, and that's a primal thing of like, yeah, I just want my mom to be fine even if the baby can't articulate that, and that's all that energy is just going to go into that. And did that infuse like that supercharge Sue with like more power cosmic? I don't know, like does that, is she like kind of different now after that, like
And what about the soul? You know, like she was dead for a pretty long time. So what about the soul? You know, where did that go? Did you see heaven? No one ever asked.
yeah, I mean, I guess Reed wouldn't ask because he's just like, I'm a scientist, but they do live in a universe. Well, I don't know if magic is in this universe. I guess that'll be more of a thing when they get to the MCU. But yeah, it's like that Marvel there is heaven and hell. So like,
well, there's a literal soul stone, so I assume that the soul must exist in some form or another. I think yeah, they have a literal devil figure now, so presumably souls do exist.
Yeah, I'm interested what that, because I didn't watch Ironheart. Because like with other magic stuff, they've kind of tried to couch it in more sci-fi way of like being like, oh well, Doctor Strange, it's not just like magic; he's like hacking the multiverse. Like they've tried to, I feel like, stray from just straight up magic for a while, and it'd be like, well, the Asgardians, yeah, they're just like aliens kind of.
I would argue that they totally dropped that by the time we got to Thor Ragnarok. Like then it was just like at that point it was just like, no, wait, magic is magic. It's like real magic, and then you get to you get to Multiverse of Madness, and it's like, yeah, man, magic is like literal magic. You can't that in WandaVision, like you can't you can't really explain it scientifically anymore. Like you can still maybe use it as a martial art, but no, it's going to be like people are able to somehow harness mystical energy, and they're able to fire it as like beams and lightning, and and that allows it to be more creative, right? So
Oh yeah, I absolutely wanted to be more of that, and it's so in and in the comics, Doom does, like he's a sorcerer in his own right. So are we gonna get some? What are they doing with Doom? Is what I want to know. Like, so why beyond the casting, like deploying him in this way, it feels weird. So I just really want to know of like, so it's like he exists in this universe, his country exists, uh, it, but he wants Franklin for some reason at the end, because
have they
does he know what the power cosmic is that why he wants it? I don't know.
it's interesting how Doctor Doom is kind of sidestepped entirely, because in that opening prologue montage, what have you, right, they basically go through this extensive rogues gallery, right? Like, so you realize that, oh yeah, there were a lot of villains here, like Mole Man and Red Ghost and everything, but
Seems
Doctor
like
Doom
they've
is kind of
never met
sidestepped.
or
Yes.
interacted
Yeah,
with him, but
like-
his country exists, and that's a known thing because it's part of like their UN, but like he has not made himself known to the world in that way yet. Maybe, I guess.
Rita and Doctor Doom fighting for the first time in their 9-year history.
Yeah, they're in another universe.
Mhm.
That's gonna be great.
No, it's interesting that they made that choice, and you don't know if they have any history with Doom whatsoever at this point, and it really seems by method of exclusion that they don't have a history with him. So I guess it's like I suppose it's possible then that moment that in the post credit scene, maybe that's like the first time they're supposed to encounter him, which
It
would
kind of
be
feels like that they don't know who this is and that he's like just appeared there. And is that gonna be their connection? Is that he took their baby or something and now they're like, oh, it's personal. But
I mean,
what was his beef with them? You know, like it makes it should be like something that like he knew them to some degree, right?
Maybe. I really think that the decision to make him sort of like the big Avengers villain and to cast him that way, I think that probably influenced the direction narratively of of this movie, right? Like that clearly determined what they could and could not show and what history they could have. Like I was wondering at a certain point, would the impact of this movie be different if, say, nobody knew who would play Doctor Doom if they had actually kept that secret, and then it's like you finally get like this teaser here, and Doom actually removes his mask, right, and then you see it's Robert Downey Jr., and that would have been the big reveal of this film. I'm just wondering, like, would that have how would that have impacted like the conversation around this movie and where things are going and everything?
I mean, people would still be talking about the movie at least, and regardless of like how people receive that thing, because it seemed like they really were banking on them just announcing that casting last year was going to sustain them through the release of the Avengers. Of like, just don't worry, guys, this is coming. He's coming back, and he's Doom, and it's like that's I feel like we just know too much about these things going in anyway. It's like, even if I don't agree with that as the casting thing, like, yeah, it probably should have just been a surprise in this movie, in the Fantastic Four, who Doom is a Fantastic Four villain. Like, you can have him be the big bad of Marvel at large, which often happens. He's like a larger threat, but it should still start from the level of, you know, a rivalry or personal connection to Reed or the Fantastic Four, to me at least. Because then if you take that away, what is he going to be? You know, he's just going to be like a powerful guy they got to beat.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. My personal theory is that, at least based on everything I've been reading up about Kang Dynasty and interviews with Jeff Loveness, who was the gonna be the writer of that movie, my impression is that they originally were going to bring in the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and everything way later. Like the idea was to do that after the Kang arc and the multiverse arc had actually ended. So the idea was that like all of those characters would be probably introduced in separate movies, and those franchises would be kind of separated for a few more years, while um, the original Avengers duology that we would get, it would wrap up the multiverse, and it would introduce a new generation of Avengers that we had met, like I guess maybe the Young Avengers and the New Avengers slash Thunderbolts or something like that. And then because of all of the problems that they ran into over the last few years, okay, they decided to just bring all of that stuff in way sooner, and so
Mm.
that changed the trajectory quite substantially. So now it's like, okay, we got to get to the Fantastic Four having a kid. We got to get to the Doctor Doom of it all, but Doctor Doom being like a main bad guy way faster, right? And we gotta still like tie it into all of that multiverse stuff that we wound up dropping, and everything. So and we got to bring in the X-Men and everything. So I suspect that that was one of the reasons why this movie really just jumps over, a lot of the buildup to get to Galactus and Franklin and so on.
It's just they don't have time, and it's continuity can be such a burden. I wish, because that was like kind of how they were pushing this as it being its own thing, even though we know it was going to tie back in because of the doom of it all. But like at least for a movie, could we fully enjoy it being its own thing in its own world? And we kind of do get to an extent. It just you do feel in terms of like those kind of narrative decisions that they are, being influenced at the macro level. Is it we just these stories just don't get to breathe on their own, which is a shame. I just wish that that the telling the story that's right for this specific story was the priority, and not like, okay, how is this going to fit in terms of our other puzzle pieces?
Yeah, well, that's the challenge, right? I mean, honestly, none of the studios have time to really build their individual franchises anymore, right? Like I mean, Warner kept playing catch up, and so it's like every other movie they release, it's like a whole bunch of characters that then they thought they could potentially spin off into their own films later or something, right? So
And it really felt like initially that Gunn was going to do something different, because the initial slate of stuff besides Superman all sounded like kind of weirder side projects. But now I feel like there is a sense of like, no, we need to get the Justice League faster. We don't have time to meander in terms of like audience interest and like, the cost of all this stuff. So I don't know, because then it's like, aren't you just repeating the mistakes of the previous continuity there, of like that they were rushing to do catch up, and that's like not that shouldn't be the goal. Like, you could still introduce those characters individually and stuff, and it's like, do you need to be working towards a Justice League within a few years? Like, I don't know that needs to be the immediate goal. They're at least working towards a Batman Superman team up sooner rather than later.
I have this really cranky theory about what they're going to do with Justice League, and I'm not sure if that's the case, but it's I posted this before. I think they're going to make Justice League kind of like a threat, like the fact of the matter that there isn't one, even though they have a Hall of Justice and all of that, is a plot point.
Yeah, Superman definitely leaves that door open of like the Hall of Justice is right there. They have like a proto not Justice League, but seems like is going to be the segue. But then it just makes the Justice Gang themselves seem even more pointless if that's just a immediate stepping stone. Like, even if it's like, yeah, if that's where we're going eventually, like, let's like have time with these characters to explore what this group even is. Because like, as the movie exists as it is, like, if I hadn't been following like all the announcements and things, like, I wouldn't even be aware that Maxwell Lord like owns the Justice. Like, I feel like the movie barely like touches on that, other than like you briefly see Sean Gunn on TV, and but like, do they even say out loud at any point that we know they're corporate sponsored? Kind of, it's hard to distance like what I know going into these movies and like what the movie is actually telling me itself, because I feel like just the average person would maybe not take that away. They might just be like, oh, they're kind of like the Justice League, and like the whole corporate run angle and lord of it all is that like even like registering to people, because the movie has a bunch of other stuff going on anyway also, that it doesn't have time to even get into that. Anyway,
they're the dawn of the Justice League.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. What if you had a movie called like
Dawn of Justice?
Huh. That sounds a ring to it.
No, that's like the subtitle of BVS, Batman v Superman.
Oh, I was playing dumb. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
Right. No, but it is kind of right. Like, I mean, it is like one of those things where it's almost impossible now to do a fully solo superhero movie, right? Or at least one that doesn't have to introduce a whole bunch of other people, right? Like I mean, they just don't seem to have the time or space for that anymore, and maybe not even the inclination, which is sad, ultimately.
Right. Isn't it kind of sad that, like, as they're announcing Spider-Man Brand New Day, that so much of it is that, like, yeah, Hulk and Punisher are going to be in it. And I'm like, well, what about Spider-Man? The guy whose name is above the title. Like, I
Fool
want
me 3 times, shame on me.
this.
Again.
This is where he truly becomes Spider-Man. You guys didn't know that. That was the last trilogy. That was 3 movies of origin story.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. They really can't, they really can't do a proper solo Spider-Man movie because this is a joint MCU and Disney slash Sony Spider-Man movie, right? Like if it were a Sony Spider-Man movie, then it could be a solo Spider-Man movie by virtue of the fact that they have all of the characters from his extended, like ancillary stories, right? They have his rogues gallery like proper. Okay, it's like when he is in a joint MCU production, he has to he is like I think it was even written that he was contractually obligated to have like a big Marvel guest star, you know? So honestly, I'm not surprised because it's like they kept him in the MCU, and now he has to keep playing. They have to keep playing by those MCU rules, which means like, okay, Sony will license like maybe some people to the MCU, but it looks like the MCU has its own characters, and they got to keep like front loading them into like, and they gotta keep them within the Spider-Man films as well, right? So every movie he's going to have like one big MCU guest star, right? Uh,
Which
and the
there's
last,
ways to do it properly. Like,
Do
because
they
I
have to
feel
be so important though? Do they have to be important?
because I feel like
just hey, Bruce Banner, and then that's it. He's gone.
right. Or even like how Daredevil in No Way Home was like, he's just there as the lawyer because that makes sense. He has a lawyer, so why not be the lawyer in this universe? So like things like that I think are fine. Or even I'll give I have issues with the rest of that trilogy, but Homecoming I feel like did its best to balance the hand it was dealt of like, okay, Spider was already introduced through Civil War here in this connection with Tony, but they are then using that as a way to tell this story for Peter and then how he needs to become his own hero. And like that actually I thought was a good way to do it, especially at the end when he, rejects Tony's offer to be in the Avengers, but then they have to undo that the next movie, like when he immediately gets the Iron Spider suit in Infinity War, because it's like, no, yeah, we got another like larger thing that this is all part of, so we can't honor that like character beat, even though that made sense for the character.
I mean, every one of these films is kind of still its own a thing and its own concern, so it has to have some sort of illusion, I think, of progress, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, next movie we can undo that if we have to, because it serves that if it serves that movie. But honestly, I feel like if things had gone differently back in 2019, we would have seen by now a Spider-Man 3 that had him interacting only with his rogues gallery. I'm like 100% certain that we would have seen a Spider-Man and Venom film by now. Like we would have seen
Sure.
Venom in some capacity there. And yeah, maybe we already would be talking about, oh yeah, Sinister Six is like coming in 2026, and Spider-Man will be the leader of this like team of anti-heroes, blah blah blah, going up against some cosmic force. And but sadly, that's something that I am sad did not happen. You know, I mean, I like the Holland Spider-Man movies, but yeah, he is, you know, by keeping him in the MCU, it's like there's now an obligation to basically have like at least one big guest star, if not more, in each and every one of them. So it's always kind of a crossover slash team up movie. You know, you're not really getting a true solo Spider-Man film anymore.
It's like, when are we gonna see him face off against Aaron Taylor Johnson's Kraven the Hunter? The audience has been craving this. I've been
craving it. I've been
Yeah.
craving it.
Okay, they would never really face off because Craven is not a villain. I mean, come on, he's not. You know,
He sounded that throne menacingly at the end of the movie, so he's clearly a villain now.
Yeah, he absorbed his father's villain particles after he killed his dad, and then
he read that letter as like, wait a minute,
I'm bad now.
He's right. I am an animal.
No, look, I could imagine them kind of coming to blows. I'm just like, by virtue of how these movies work, it's like, no, they could never have Craven as a full-blown like bad guy, you know? That's just like, you can't have him be the headliner of his own franchise and be a bad guy in a Spider-Man movie at the same time, you know? Like, I can imagine them.
Tom Hardy's Venom is not a bad guy. They refer to in those movies that Venom bites off heads and stuff, but he's like they go straight to Venom as the
lethal protector.
Right, yeah, that he's like, a vigilante and stuff, and those are only bad people he's killing, and so it's like, yeah, the interesting part of him being a reformed villain is not kind of lost. It's just lost there because it's like, well, no, he went straight to like having control of it and using those powers for like good or whatever his definition of good is, but we didn't even get to see like the monstrous portion of that transformation. But yeah, so it's gonna be like when we actually do get a Venom with Tom Holland, like it's just gonna be someone different, right? I mean, they've already said that there's gonna maybe be a Norman Osborn at some point, because I know some people after No Way Home was like, well, they just imported the other Norman, so like they're just not gonna do one in this universe. Like, well, we don't know if there's even an Oscorp in the MCU because no one's brought it up. So, although you think when Willem Dafoe came into the MCU, he could have like done a Google search or something like Oscorp, and then you see a picture of whoever Norman is in that universe or something. But that would have involved them actually thinking about that and wanting to explore that ahead of time instead of just like doing the cameos they needed to do for that movie.
Anyway, Fantastic Four.
Spider-Man hangs out with the Fantastic Four sometimes.
He does in this movie. No, they should piggyback off of them. Is there anything else to say about the Fantastic Four though? I feel like not a lot happens in it that's interesting.
Yeah, I did run out of things. That's like, I just went to Marvel at large because like I was like the big choices the movie makes in terms of Galactus and Franklin aren't really, they're more like non-choices. I mean, it'd be interesting to see more of like, besides that opening that got cut out and cut up with like John Malkovich just being completely removed.
Oh, right, we didn't mention this yet. You're right. I want to read this. Yeah, we're talking, and someone actually made like a post about this to show like chronologically the stuff from the trailers and TV spots that it is all connected, because it shows it like a montage at the beginning. Like, here's Johnny doing something, here's Ben doing something, here's Reed doing something. But then someone's like, actually, wait, look at that footage. You look at the trailers.
That was one sequence.
It's all one sequence. They all go off together. They're all coordinating this one massive thing that's going on, and like that would have been a lot more interesting than just seeing it cut up. And I was like, well, this kind of reminds me a lot of like Suicide Squad, their first one, the one that was taken away from David Ayer, and like they're pretty much the same movie in that regard. Very similar kind of ethos of just taking one scene and just doing your hardest to make a montage out of it.
Is it really just like a timing thing? Because of the pacing's off too. Because our initial scene is Sue getting the positive pregnancy thing, but chronologically that doesn't even happen. Doesn't seem like it happens after the montage and everything's set up, and we go to like whatever the present is for those characters, it doesn't feel like that scene has happened yet until we get to like later when they're having
No,
dinner.
I think when they first did this, okay, and they said like, here's the first 5 minutes of the Fantastic Four, and then they released that scene. It's just like the beginning narration of that newscaster guy, right? And I feel like that probably was it. I think that was going to be the first scene. It was going to be like him doing a recap, but maybe straighter to the audience, not like a fake recap of like, they fought all these villains and now here they are, and then like poof, they're gone because they're off to deal with the John Malkovich and this thing he's doing in his one big scene. And I feel like that's probably a better entrance to the story. And then you can get the counterpoint of like, oh, now she's pregnant, So you have like,
right, because they've already done this dangerous thing and stopped John Malkovich,
exactly.
and then it's like, oh, now we're bringing a baby into this.
Yeah,
that
like
would be like an escalation.
You have the idealization of a superhero universe, and like, ooh, we're dropping this bomb in here. You have something to set it against. Going straight for like the baby stuff is like that doesn't play as hard to me because like we haven't even seen them do anything yet. They're just there.
I don't have context. I know because I know who the Fantastic Four is. I know what that means. But like, if imagine if someone who knows nothing, I've seen none of the other movies, and I just walk into this. Like, what am I supposed to take away from that opening? I'm like, okay, this is a couple that's pregnant. This is gonna be a movie about a pregnancy. Oh, I thought this was a superhero movie. Like that's gonna be someone's like thought process. Like, oh,
well, okay. I would say that it sets up the fact that this will be an intimate film, that this will be a family-focused, intimate film, right? Because opening that way, that's a choice, right? It's a very, I remember really liking that scene just because of how it was shot. I think the blocking there in particular, like how it transpired, and to me that set the stage for the fact that this movie will be primarily small scale. So I would say it works in that sense.
Yeah, I like the scene itself, and I get what you're saying. I just feel like then the movie's almost contradicting itself by placing it where it is if you're going to have this montage of showing them as this big superhero of like you're like, so I'm like, which movie is it? Am I watching the intimate quiet one, but you're also showing me this is like a big comic booky thing where they're like got all these villains and running around, and the movie's like kind of trying to do both. I think it's got a bit of an identity crisis.
I think most MCU movies kind of have an identity crisis. I think there was a really good article about Doctor Strange 2 that described it as a film at war with itself. And I feel that a lot of these movies, they have these elements that seem to be at odds with one another. I do wonder maybe if this new Fantastic Four would have been a better film if maybe they didn't even do that montage. Like maybe you could just have everything be inferred, so you didn't need like all of that like stuff with it. It would have been an interesting take on this film. So they would have to convey all of that information in some other way throughout the picture rather than front loading it with exposition and stuff.
You would have to show, not tell. That's an interesting idea. They could have skipped the montage and then maybe that cartoon that's like at the very end or so, even though that doesn't really give you information, it's just like a cute animated thing. Like you see that a version of that playing on some TV in the background while they're doing a Fantastic Four thing. Like you kind of just like show them in motion doing their thing. Like I don't know, the scene that it originally was of them stopping John Malkovich and his apes could have been some kind of way to like establish what their deal is and to be like, okay, this is their thing.
That would be great, actually, right? Like you would get sort of a scene that shows like a day in the life of the Fantastic Four. It's like I loved how Craven had that opening vignette, almost I think it was like a 10-minute sequence, right, that showed you exactly who this guy is. It was like him at the end of some mission, Indiana Jones style in a way, right? Has nothing to do with the rest of the movie almost, but immediately it's like a great way to just introduce the character and his powers and what his whole deal is. right? So yeah, I think what you're describing here would have totally worked.
Yeah, I agree. Craven is better than this. No, I'm kidding. That wasn't
I mean, one of them has the foreigner, and one of them doesn't have a foreigner.
1, 2,
One.
3. Hold on, I'll be right back in 1 second, guys.
All right. Yeah, I've run out of things to say because other than that, it really is kind of like a just the aesthetic, and it's kind of the stuff you've seen in a Fantastic Four movie before. Maybe a little bit gussied up, maybe more budget, but it's kind of what you've come to expect. And so it's hard to go into it. Like people say, like, oh, not a lot of action. They're a family of scientists and adventurers, but like they don't really go on an adventure either. They're like stuck, on Earth. So like, was this like the best premise for a film? I'm gonna say no. I think that they really hobbled themselves by doing Galactus, because Galactus is like something is a big thing here. If you want to get really deep and dirty into something, you can really get introspective. But is that like the first showing you want to do? Like, oh, like something that's you're introducing them, like being kind of really small scale, really grounded, really introspective. Like, why not have them go on like a journey or like an adventure, like you mentioned, Indiana Jones style? Something where they're traveling, something like that. That'd be interesting to me, I think.
I agree with that. I think it's definitely rushed in the sense that it's doing Galactus right off the bat, and it also has to do all these other things, right? Like that's a lot of stuff. There's like a lot of stuff that just hampers the potential, right, of the story. I do think it gets by, uh, mostly thanks to the cast, the focus on the characters. I think in the time that we have, they really do a good job of introducing these characters. And, not everybody has that much to do. But in terms of, making an impression, it makes for a good time in the theater.
Well, except for Elvis who fell asleep, but I enjoyed myself. I did feel
I didn't fall asleep. I said I wished I had fallen asleep because I'm like, why am I still watching this? God, please take me.
Oh wow,
Dear Morpheus, God of Dreams.
I will say I guess it depends on, did this movie connect with you emotionally, right? Like because like and to me it did, and I was immersed all throughout. Like I never like felt like but
that,
to each
that, that,
his
that,
own.
that yeah, that's what made it work for me, even if there were parts that I thought were less interesting, like in the final battle. I mean, there's that great moment with Sue when she's, putting basically all into pushing him, but like the other moments in that final confrontation to me were less interesting than the setup of it all, which was like them planning and like I was like, all the logistics of pulling this off is more interesting than how we're showing the execution. And even if it's not the same kind of movie, I almost feel like a reference point that could have been that maybe a lot of these movies could learn from, but especially when you're like trying to come up with an elaborate plan, and then we see them like act out the plan, is like the Mission Impossible movies are like the whatever heist or like impossible mission they need to do, usually a couple they need to do within one movie, is like the planning of it is just as exciting as like seeing it unfold, because then when it starts happening and things start going wrong, you're like, oh crap, how's Ethan Hunt gonna figure this out now? And I I felt pretty okay of like I think they got this. I wasn't that like worried at towards like the actual end, like the like lingering dread as Galactus is approaching, like when Elvis brought up earlier, like, oh, he just passed Jupiter, like there was more tension, and I wish we like kind of zoom down, see how the like world at large is struggling to prepare for this, but at least that was like the it felt like there was a tangible danger. Once he was like actually on Earth, yeah, I wasn't I wasn't as worried about it. I was like, I think they got this. Even though earlier as it went on, I was like, oh, is he gonna destroy their plan? Their plan? They're gonna have to hop ship. But then like, yeah, it felt like for me at least, as soon as he touches down and drops in the ocean, for some reason, like, yeah, I was just like, yeah, I don't know, this feels like not out of their range. For some reason, I don't know. I can't point to exactly how I was somewhat checked out during parts of the last fight, but that's not overall. I'm engaged with the characters emotionally, and that's what kind of keeps me through, even with these quibbles that I'm bringing up. I mean, yeah, I think it structurally is at odds with itself, just in terms of like having to do all these things. It's, I guess, a testament, yeah, to the cast and the uh the even with the shaky, weird editing in some parts, that like the filmmaking itself that like keeps that feeling like coherent and watchable. It was watchable to me, like I wasn't I wasn't displeased in that way. It's just, yeah, there's definitely like some missed opportunities.
I do want to say one more thing about the final action. I do think that one problem is that we don't have a ground level uh, level of combat. Like, if they had like some other like physical villain who could actually go toe to toe with the main characters, like you probably would have had a much better sense of what their individual strengths and weaknesses are. Because Galactus is like a giant. Anything you throw at him, he just doesn't seem almost phased by it, right? So we never get that sense of we never see like a personal showdown between, say, like Reed and some villain, really, that could that could actually display his, that could allow him to just to use his powers in a truly inventive way. I think they kind of gesture towards that with that ape stuff, but again, like, it's a shame that we don't get much more than just that one instance of it. Right? Because I think like the idea is to show how overmatched they are, but we never see them use their abilities in such a way to show, oh, okay, like this is how they normally like fight the bad guys and everything.
Which is why we should have just had that opening sequence
Yes.
as is. It really seems like not that would solve every single problem the movies had, but it's like there would a lot of these issues would, I feel like, be if there'd be a sense of a more organic setting up of the family, of what their status quo is, and then we've like seen them of like what their normal like battle plan of action is, of how they're using their powers. Because as it is, it does kind of feel underwhelming of like that like all Ben gets to do is like he throws like a tanker or a gas truck at Galactus, and then Johnny lights it up, which is like a cool combination of things, of like they're combining their powers, but like doesn't amount to anything. And then when he flies him into Galactus and he has to punch him to like he's like stretching Reed out. I was wondering how far they were going to keep going with this. I was like, oh, his clothes are starting to like break.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping Galactus was gonna flick him.
Like a rubber band.
Yeah, but he doesn't. I'm like, damn it, they missed that.
Yeah, what was his plan? Is just to keep pulling until like he was in half? Like we just
no. I think he wanted to tear him apart, which honestly would have been kind of
gnarly.
Kind of gnarly. Yeah,
we should have flicked him. I think. Come on, he's doing like this. Boop. Would have so good. Would have been so good. Enormous opportunity.
Yeah, because it does feel uncharacteristic. Because then it almost feels like, oh, so is he enjoying torturing Reed in this moment? Because if his main goal is the baby, it should just be like, these are insects and obstacles that I need to flick away. The actual flinging him away would almost make more sense with what we're told and shown of him otherwise, because him stopping to like kind of pull Reed apart almost suggests something that's not even hinted of, like, oh, so this is he like mad at Reed now? Like,
I think he was pretty annoyed at that point. It's like it's like when a mosquito bites you enough times, like you actually just want to squash it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I squash it. I don't like start pulling it apart, like limbs off, or like be like, I'm gonna torture the mosquito now.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he was torturing him per se. To me, it was just always like, okay, he's just going to destroy he's just going to destroy him now, and this is like how he's going to do it. But Reed is like hard to kill, you know. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I will. One last thing I want to add is that I found it interesting how, the moment Galactus touches down on Earth, I think he looks over to see the Statue of Liberty, and I'm not sure. I'm just wondering, like, man, what is he thinking in that moment? Because he seems to like,
Is he
maybe
amused by it, or does he think that's a woman? Is he like, huh? She looks kind of good.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
oh,
that
this
was
is
just
fun.
that was just like a fun little bit. Like maybe he's like, oh, I'm bigger than the statue or something. I don't know.
Like to
That was
them,
nice.
this is something great and like mighty, and it's like, huh? Yeah, that's cute.
Hmm. All right, so I guess we're kind of out of things to say.
Yeah,
I mean, the box office, is that something we want to like quickly
I
like?
mean, people have been saying like it's good, it's bad, it's good in this context, bad in that context. I don't care. The next one's not gonna be any good. It's got to deal with all this baggage.
I think overall the sign of like seems like it's fine overall, but in the context of like all superhero movies overall, like will we have another one that cracks 1 billion? Into like Avengers is the most likely one, but even that, even with the Robert Downey Jr. of it all, it seems like it is gonna like maybe barely ding that when we get to Doomsday, even if that will be like their biggest hit they've had since I guess like Deadpool Wolverine, but like it feels like the days are over of like this being like the like global must see phenomenon of like this is like everyone has to show up and see this, and it's just going to be the people who are into this stuff now and not like large like large swaths of like people who don't normally go to movies were going to see like Endgame and stuff, but now I don't know, those people seem like they're done.
There have been some interesting articles and studies of box office right now, and they talk about how the days of the $1 billion gross being commonplace is just going away. Like the audience isn't there anymore. The China box office isn't there anymore. Circumstances have changed. Like basically, $1 billion plus grosses used to be a thing maybe like I think from what was it like 2015 through 2021, something like that. Because there were all of these circumstances in place. Like it's just for some reason like a record number of movies during that period made over 1 billion. But now it's like things are going back to the levels that used to be maybe say 20 years ago, something like that. So now I think there was an article called "Is 800 million the new 1 billion?" Is that like the upper threshold that now people will strive for? So they're saying, okay, maybe 500 to 600 is like a good gross, relative to all of that.
I think that's probably true. Like there'll still be things that hit. I feel like Avatar is probably still gonna like do huge worldwide. But like yeah, every single blockbuster isn't going to be doing those numbers, and is then that going to reflect on, because my thing is like we don't, the scale doesn't need to be that big for every single one of these, even within the superhero context of like all these characters don't need budgets that big. So will they scale back, or will it
They
just be
are already.
yeah, it will scale back in terms of less projects though for certain characters. I guess I bet I'd scale back in terms of like smaller scale for like what the status quo of what they put out is, but it feels to me like that it's just going to be like, well, we're only going to put certain things in theaters now that we know will be like, even if it won't hit a bill, that it'll be like that'll be a bigger grosser for us.
I mean, I think both. I think all of that is already happening. Like they're gonna definitely they will, if they haven't already, cut down the number of works, the number of movies and shows and everything that's in the pipeline. I mean, people are talking about how, okay, there was an overproduction for streaming. Now it's like everybody's cutting back. But also, I've noticed how blockbuster movie budgets seem to be getting cut down. Like, I remember noticing it even last year when I think I saw like 3 Warner Brothers movies in a row or something like that, and I was just like, wait a minute, um, there's definitely stuff that's cut. There's definitely a way in which they're trying to save money on things like VFX and runtime. Like, I think Dune Part Two demonstrated that. Godzilla versus Kong 2 or X Kong or whatever, that definitely felt cut down or shorter. And the newest Marvel movies, like, there have been articles about how they're trying to save up on things now. So in my mind, that's one of the reasons why Thunderbolts and the new Fantastic Four are more intimate than these films used to be, because they can't have the same level of spectacle that we're used to, right? So it's like, now you have to know, okay, we have to spend less money, so I guess we have to have less action scenes.
I
And
mean, for me,
maybe
that's good because I have enjoyed both of those movies. I liked more than a lot of the more recent MCU stuff. Like both of like Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts overall, I have to go back and actually think about what my actual MCU ranking is, but though they're in the upper half more than the bottom and I think that more intimate scale is, even with issues I would have with either of those movies, that's something more that I'm more interested in. I don't know if that's general audiences. I think it really just depends on what the character. It's a lot of it's like there are characters that the audience will always show up for. Like Batman movies are pretty safe always. Like Spider-Man, whenever they finally do like a proper X-Men movie, I feel like that has a shot of doing pretty well. And they're probably still gonna have some returning people, like they're just gonna lock in Hugh Jackman until he dies. So they'll just be like, oh, well, he's back. Look, you guys like him.
I mean, probably, but I also, yeah, I also think it's not necessarily a bad thing. I definitely feel budgets have just, gone out of control over the last decade, especially because it used to be that a movie with $150 million dollars for production, I think that was like the standard about 20 years ago. Then suddenly, then somehow we got up to 200, to then 250. um and then it was like, okay, we reached like the point where it's like 300 to 400. And I think after COVID especially, um everybody's like just trying to make these things more manageable, right? Because COVID just drew, budgets under COVID just blew up considerably, because now you had to stop production, you had to protract production, you had to, like, delay things and keep people on contract and overages and so on and so forth. So it's just, it became unfeasible. So I definitely think that Marvel is going to have to cut back in general, both in terms of how much they make and what they make things for, in order to survive. Because yeah, they've had some bombs recently. What can I say? I mean, I love Thunderbolts, but that's a movie that, when you
It did
factor
not
in the
do
marketing,
well. Yeah.
yeah, no, it did not do well, which is a shame. Uh, but
Yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorite recent Marvel movies, but yeah, it didn't. Was it the market? I guess what I'm getting at is it just like the landscape is shifting, especially as far as the studio side goes. As far as audiences, is it a superhero fatigue, like, or like yeah? There's gonna be things that they're gonna see regardless, but like overall, we're not. It's because it was almost like a miracle what they were pulling off earlier of like, oh, Captain Marvel passed 1 billion, and like all the people are going on droves to see movies about a talking tree and raccoon, like that. No offense to fans of the Guardians comic books, but like most people didn't know or care about these characters before. But like, I don't think they're gonna be able to like pull that off audience wise anymore, right?
I agree. Because I think on some level, like all empires, the MCU empire overextended itself, and at a certain point, it cannot sustain the momentum of its growth. At a
I
certain
think
point,
streaming really hurt. Besides COVID and all the
yes,
unanticipated things, the streaming was because like WandaVision was good, even if I have more complaints about like how the show ended. I thought the first half is stronger. That almost gave a false impression of like, all your streaming stuff's gonna be of this quality. And it's like, nope, not it's not gonna be up to that. And, like if all their output had been like as thought out as WandaVision or even a Loki, I guess they probably could have maintained people longer. But even then, people aren't just not gonna. It starts to feel like homework for it. Like if you're not interested in those specific characters, people are gonna be like, why do I need to? I think there's still room to wherever they can find it, whether it's like a smaller budget movie or as some kind of TV thing. Like there should still be room for those kinds of stories. It's just that trying to present it as it being this large tapestry that like all of these are like of equal importance is not something people are buying anymore, and they weren't really ever once you went to streaming. But like that's just not going to be feasible going forward.
no, I from what I know, it's really Disney. Disney really wanted to beef up Disney Plus with original content, so they kind of put the onus on Marvel to just produce a lot of stuff for Disney Plus, but which again I would say contributed to that sense of overextension. And ultimately, yeah, it's just hard to keep all these balls in the air and keep up a certain quality level when you have like so much to do. So yeah, I mean, I think they did oversaturate the market a little bit with superhero movies, right? Like at a certain point you just kind of get tired of that, and maybe you want something different. So yeah, I don't know, it's interesting to wonder if they can ever recapture that momentum again, because I think that's really the only reason why Captain Marvel made over $1 billion. It's because it was riding that momentum of, right, like all these, like all of this cool stuff is coming out. Now we have Endgame, and now we have the next thing. You kind of you sort of felt it in the air. You kind of wanted to be a part of that experience of seeing this grand, tapestry or arc or what have you come together. And now it's no longer as exciting, because I think we sort of reached the peak of that with Endgame in 2019 already. So now it's a challenge, certainly. And personally, I just think like Marvel should, or the MCU in general, should produce less stuff and just allow for more breathing room in between movies. Like, do they have to
Agreed.
release? Yeah, like why not release it like maybe a movie every couple of years? Like maybe you'll have a movie one year, a television show the next year, and you do that like back and forth, like for the next decade or something.
It makes it feel more. I mean, that's kind of the problem with the other major Disney property, Star Wars, is that Star Wars stopped feeling special of like if there's a new thing constantly coming out. Then whereas with the movies, it's it was it was very rare, like yeah, even when there was a new trilogy of like, oh, okay, the prequels are coming out, you still had to wait. So sometimes it wasn't like immediately each year there was a new one, and then streaming on top of that also started weighing down there. I think all these things need time to breathe, and that helps it creatively, but then it also just helps. It should be it's kind of a marathon. You gotta pace yourself.
Yeah, for sure. We need less, in a way. We need less, and for everything that, to be a bit more substantial, I guess. Well, all right. I guess that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have no other thoughts about this.
Do you guys think the baby looked?
Terrible. I feel like they need to go back every couple of years to redo that CGI because in 2 years it's gonna look rougher than it does right now.
In some shots, the baby looked pretty fake. I would say in some shots the baby
It looked
looked
like
very
that
good, and
dancing
others
baby from the Pepsi commercial. You know,
no. But I can imagine it's pretty terrible.
it looked like Son of the Mask. You know,
I thought of Renesmee from the Twilight movies. If you guys ever seen those, when they have
yeah.
the baby at
That's
the end.
that was pretty bad too.
I have not seen it, but I know what you're talking about. They literally called it Chuck Esme behind the scenes because it looked like Chucky or something.
It's
It was horrifying.
terrifying. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, all right. So Fantastic Four. I mean, I think we all agree, pretty good in parts. Could have used the polishing up in some other parts. It might, yeah. Of the official Fantastic Four movies, it's probably the best. I still think the Corman one is better overall, in terms of just entertainment value and charm. But it's charming as well. Will we ever see an extended cut? I hope so. Overall, but you know what? It's
Have they done though? I guess
never.
they released they re-released one of the Spider-Man in like
Yeah,
Endgame or something of like these are more scenes, but that not as like director's cuts, like or anything. It's just like these are kind of alternate takes or something that we just put back in to the movie. They've done a couple of those, but like actual extended director's cuts, we haven't really gotten with any of these.
They don't want to do that because it would cost a lot of money to finish up all the VFX stuff, but also I
I'll take
think
it unfinished. Just give it to me. I don't care.
I would love to see, like, I feel if there are two films in the MCU that definitely deserve a director's cut, it would be Thor 2 and The Incredible Hulk. Like, I would, I would pay money to see extended cuts of those because there's just, all of the deleted footage they've released for those movies. I'm like, wow, this could have been so much better before some folks tampered with it. No, really, I'm not kidding. It's like, I think Alan Taylor got really screwed over with The Dark World. But
I mean, it basically it was just like a Feige movie by the end. It wasn't Alan Taylor. It wasn't, you can't, it's disingenuous to even call it an Alan Taylor movie of like what we ended up with.
They made it a more of a Whedon-y movie, or they tried to insert that. They even reportedly had to fly in Joss Whedon to write like jokes for that film. Like, they reshot like all of that. They reshot and filmed new stuff for Loki. Like, I mean, it was like, you watch all of that deleted footage and I'm like, oh my God, Alan Taylor wanted to make an actually kind of serious,
like fantasy epic.
Yeah, he did. Like, Loki was dead. Loki was going to die. They had like a way more calibrated tone and everything. And it was just like, yeah, like I feel sorry for Alan Taylor. I think in fact there was at one point supposed to be an extended cut of Age of Ultron. There was like a leak, I think via Amazon or something. And so I think it was, I really do believe it was in the works for a little bit, but then they canceled it. But like information like there was supposed to be an extended cut of Age of Ultron, and that didn't happen either. So I don't know if that film could have been significantly improved or anything, but yeah, I would also want to see an extended cut of Fantastic Four. I just don't think that's in the cards, unfortunately.
Which is a shame, and because then it makes it feel like their priorities isn't of these things as like individual artistic objects, and it's more just like, well, these are they're part of a whole.
Well, it's this, it's capitalism. It's like the studio. Yeah, but I mean, if Warner Brothers can chill out 70 million for Zack Snyder to complete Justice League, I mean,
every penny.
Yeah, like I think like, guys, there is a market for this stuff. Like maybe you could like bring back Louis Leterrier and like give him a budget to work with, so Hulk could be. I'm serious. I would really want to see the director's cut of Incredible Hulk.
He's got time. That Fast X sequel is never happening, so he's just
2027.
That's when Fast X 2 is coming.
Yes, 2027. I think it's been more or less announced at this point.
Okay.
So yeah. All right. So I guess any last thoughts? Anybody?
Well, as I mentioned, it's a Fantastic Four movie. I feel like what really kind of maybe would have hurt this on rewatch is that when you mention like characters you don't know but people turn out to love, I think people know Fantastic Four too well at this point. It's not just seeing a new one isn't going to turn heads because they know Fantastic Four. It's been a joke for a couple of years now. Okay, we've all heard the horror stories about Resident Silver Surfer. Maybe that's the thing. We've known them too much. There wasn't ever like a really, really good one that people could rally around. So maybe that's the issue. And I'm not sure if this is going to buck the trend. You're saying the Fantastic Four curse is over with. Is it? I mean, this is just kind of okay. There's some really fun stuff, but
yeah, had there just been too much brand damage at this point to like really sell, other than for comic fans who were going to see it anyway, in like this prefer this one, but like to general audiences, is our Fantastic Four just like, yeah, those are like the bad movies, right?
yeah, right. We know what they are. They got a strong guy who's on fire, stretchy guy, but they never, none of these ones ever seem to do anything interesting. The first movie, let's do a rundown, okay? Movie one, the first Tim Story one. End of the movie, they just kind of cover Doctor Doom in heat and fire until he rusts. The end. That's how that one ends. Is this in the second movie? Silver Surfer, kills Galactus for them. That's it. That's how that one ends.
Wait. No. Wait. Johnny Storm, though, absorbed everyone's powers, though.
Oh, right? I forgot that when he has everyone's power.
He helped. All right.
Yeah, he was there.
He was there. So you mentioned Fantastic Four crank version. They punch Doctor Doom once, he dies. I'm gonna watch that. It's on Disney Plus. I think isn't Disney Plus like posted like an image saying watch these before you watch the new one. If it's on Disney Plus, I'll watch it right now. I'll watch it again. It's like 70 minutes long. I'll do it. Anyway.
And then this one they shove Galactus into a portal.
And that's it. They just push him. There we go. So I don't know. I feel like there just hasn't been a big touchstone for that before that shows people how cool they can be. Because with Superman, look at Superman. With Superman, there's always like, well, maybe we can capture the magic of Reeves and Donner again. Because you're like, that's something we can strive toward. Because we know it's possible. So people will always give Superman another chance because they know it's possible. In Fantastic Four, like, what's possible? Like, what's possible? Who cares? It's not like there's going to be a good one. People don't know that there can be one. And is this the good one? It's the best one, but it's still far from perfect.
Yeah, it's far from perfect. I don't know. I still think it leaves an impression. I will say that, or at least certain parts of it do, and that's
there's an emotional maturity there, especially in some of the scenes that we highlighted that surprised me, and maybe it was just the benefit of going in with lowered expectations, but that I was like, oh, well, this is like upper tiered MCU just based on that alone, that it had room for those more intimate moments, even if I wish it made room for other stuff that would have been interesting to explore. But like it in terms of that, it's like I want things more in that direction. So even if I get where you're coming from, Elvis, in terms of like it being boring, I wasn't bored, but I think they can do both. It's just they need to figure out the right balance, and so far a lot of these movies end up with a configuration that that is at odds with itself in terms of like, yeah, are you trying to be this more mature, quieter thing, or do you want to do the big spectacle movie? I think you can have those more intimate moments in a spectacle movie. It's not easy to do, and I think they're still there is no like magic formula for how to do that, I don't think.
All right. I think that pretty much says it all. So, let's see here. Why don't you guys do your sign-offs, and we'll say goodnight. You first, Mikhail.
All right. So you can find me on Twitter at MLS532. I also have a newsletter, textual variations .substack.com, where I write about film and television and pop culture. Published an article on Superman the other day, and it seems to be getting some traction. So that's
Oh,
pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah, that's it.
And you, Doug?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at the Doug Files. I'm always plugging my YouTube on here, which I'm bad at updating regularly. But I also have a podcast called These Guys Got Juice. It's a movie podcast. Last week we put out a very too long 4.5 hour episode on Eddington. It was
Whoa.
yeah. I mean, some of the at least 1 hour wasn't about like where you started just talking about recent movies and just politics represented in movies and stuff. But it was a fun discussion. It was fun to record. So maybe for some maniac, it might be fun to listen to some film nerds just talk about. It's a good movie too. Also, if Eddington's still playing, I'd recommend it if you like Ari Aster stuff. This might be my favorite of his. So yeah, that's what I got.
All right. Well, listen, thank you both for
Yes.
for the conversation. I think wow, it's a it still ran out. It still ran over 2.5 hours. Wow.
We had to get that titillating Spider-Man conversation out of the way.
I didn't even bring up the casting news of that Stranger Things girl and the rumor of who she's playing. I don't care.
Yeah, who cares? It's gonna be bad. Fool me 5 times. How about that? Anyway, so Fantastic Four out of 5. How about that?
Hey, that's a good score. I mean,
Actually, yeah, it is. I thought I think you gave it like a 6 out of 10 or something.
I did. I'm just that's better. It's better to end it off. I think if we aggregate it out of the 3 of us,
Okay, that sounds. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't log in on Letterboxd, but I probably was gonna do 4 out of 5, just to, like on a scale of like. I think I did Superman like 3.5, so I was like, well, this is better. So
I did Superman like 2.5.
Whoa.
Hey, for me that's like even. Like that's half bad, half good. All right, so that's pretty. So it evens out. Okay, so I give this like a 3. I give this like a straight 3. I think.
Yeah, like if a movie's enjoyable and watchable, I feel like it gets at least a 3. Like 2 is like, oh, barely.
2.5 is straight down the middle. Straight down the middle of the road.
I give it a solid B.
Yeah, maybe we should switch to letter grades. They should give you the option on Letterboxd. Do you want to be stars or do you want to just do letters?
Letters, yeah. All right. So thank you all for listening, whoever was listening, and have a great evening and see you again next time. I have no idea what's coming up next in terms of big releases. Who wants to watch Toxic Avenger? Let me know.
Oh, I'm gonna see it. It's been like it was supposed to come out like 2 years ago or more. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty intrigued to see what that is. So
all right, so I have tickets for that, so maybe we'll do another one of these for that one. But thank you so much and have a great time. See ya.
Bye.